Hello folks, my name is Scott Grove. I have been around for quite a long time doing the guitar lesson videos, and out of so many requests to actually finally clear up all the myths, the hype, the BS, and so forth of everything to do with guitars, amplifiers, on-stage stuff, setting up guitars, blah, blah, blah. All the big-name companies, whether it's Gibson, Fender, blah, blah, every name company, they have lied to you about so many different things, and I'm going to clear up those lies. I will also clear up so many myths that have been passed down from generation to generation about guitars, about amplifiers, whether you should use tubes or solid states, blah, 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 and so on and so forth. I will teach you how to totally 100% set up any guitar. Don't pay anybody to set your guitars up or change strings or to do your truss rods or anything, or to adjust your whammies and set them up. I'll teach you how. And you don't need any little bitty rulers to measure 3/64 of an inch. Forget that garbage. It's not needed. Why? Because everybody likes their guitar set up different, and you don't need to set it up by anybody's rules. I'll show you how to set it up to your preference. Okay, I'm going to be kind of like the guy who comes on TV and like spills all the secrets from all the magicians, tells all the magic tricks, you know. Okay, number one being, and I'm going to tell you some stuff right up front now, just say, if you already know it all, do not get this video, okay? Just stay the heck away from me, and I don't want to hear from you either. This is the way I play the game. I play it for real. I'm here to tell you the truth about everything. Number one, is a tube amp better than a solid state amp? No. If you get a good tone, you get a good tone. I'll show you how to do that out of all of them. Okay, so it doesn't make any difference. I actually prefer solid state over tube, you know, but that's me. But I'll show you and let you pick just by pure information what you like. I'm here to give you information. That's it. Another one being one of the biggies, so I can put this guitar down. I'm going to show you a 4 guitar. I have had, a couple thousand guitars. I still have over 100 here to mess with and work with you during this whole video on to show you different things. Like the age-old question, an electric guitar, okay? Like this one here is made out of ash. I have another one over here that's made out of mahogany. I have another one over here that's made out of man-made materials. I have one that's made out of alder over here. Blah, blah, blah. Hey, once you plug them in, guess what? None of the kind of wood that it's made out of makes a single bit of difference in the sound. Period. That is fact. That is not my opinion. I will tell you when things are my opinion and when things are fact. Number one, here's the reason. Pickups, guess what, folks? They're magnetic. Magnetic pickups do not care what your wood is made out of. It does not pick up wood, or whether your guitar has a nitro finish, which falls off your guitar and looks like crap, and it is crap, or a poly finish. Your magnets don't pick that up. Okay, so none of that makes any difference in the sound of your guitar once it is plugged in. Acoustically, yes, everything affects everything on an acoustic instrument, or even if your guitar is not plugged in but it's electric, the wood will make a difference, everything will make a difference, but I'm here to tell you what will and will not make a difference, and how to make a difference to get your guitar to sound the way you want it to once it's plugged in. Sure, this one sounds like this one over here sounds like what it's going to, but when you plug it in, magnets do not pick up wood. They don't care what your wood is made out of. They don't care what your finish is made out of. So, ta-da-da-da. Which guitar has the most sustain, okay, in the world? Tell you what, number one, mine. Why? Because I use a Boss CS3 compressor sustainer. Therefore, I have more sustain than anybody in the world. My guitar will stop sustaining when I tell it to. Okay, when it's plugged in, which guitar has the most sustain? I'll tell you which one out of 3 favorite ones and 1 junky one, which is going to have it. Okay, here's your basic Fender. Well, not your basic. This is probably wildest, craziest Fender Stratocaster known to mankind. Okay, so you got your Fender Stratocaster. Da-da-da-da. You got the good old Fender Telecaster. Okay, these are just the world's most famous guitars. Again, we're going for sustain here. Here's your heavy as all get out Gibson Les Paul Standard. And then just some modified man-made piece of cheap junk. A Steinberger Spirit here with these little lace sensor pickups in it and stuff. Okay, so which one has the most sustain? Guess what? You bet it's this one. And I'll let you know why in the video. Which one has the least sustain? The one that is known to supposedly have the most sustain. That's right, the Les Paul has the least sustain out of all these guitars. Not just these four particular guitars, but out of Les Pauls and Strats and Tellys and so forth in general. And I will tell you why and what you can do to increase your sustain, which is amazingly surprising what it is that causes sustain and so forth and what diminishes it. It's the things that you would think just the opposite of that are the truth. Okay, like I said, I will go over real world things like when you're on stage, how to actually mic up your amplifiers, when and when not to use amplifiers on stage. Yes, there are very many situations where you're out there playing gigs like I have done for so many countless famous people on, in the arenas. I have done that for decades. And then you get to little casino gigs and they do not allow amplifiers, period. So, you tube amp guys, you're out of a job. So I will teach you, I don't mean to laugh at you, but people who have the mentality of, I already know it all and it has to be a Fender through a Fender tube amp and cranked up to this much. And it's like, you guys are what I call guitarded, okay? Cork sniffers, that's what you're called. Oh, I love to smell it. Oh, I know everything. Okay, this is basically making fun of you folks, okay? So I am here to disprove every rumor out there. And like I said, I will tell you what is proven and what is actual fact. And then I will tell you things that are my opinion, and you can separate one from the other, but I will tell you which is which. And like I said, I will teach you every aspect of setting up your guitars, what strings do what, because the biggest things that are involved in your tone are about 80% of it is you and your fingers. The rest of it's in your gear. Okay, so I'll show you the difference between, of course, different types of humbuckers, different single coils, coil splitting, coil tapping. They are two entirely different things. Gibson is wrong in every one of their catalogs. Say I've got this Gibson Les Paul Traditional Pro over here. If you look at the Gibson catalogs, it says it has coil tapping in it. It does not. It has coil splitting in it when you actually take the humbucker and split it into a single coil and shut off one half of the coil. So they don't know what the heck they're talking about when they're talking stuff. There's so much of this. Coil tapping is a whole different thing. So I will tell you, take out all the mystery out of all this. I will tell you what different kinds of single coils in different positions. Actually, what a 24 fret neck, a 22 fret neck, 21 fret neck, and where the actual pickups end up at on a guitar like here. Like if you were actually to have a 24 fret neck on here, this pickup would be down here, and this guitar, the Strat would no longer sound like a Strat. It would still sound like a guitar, but if you want a Strat sound, you're not going to get it out of a guitar with 24 frets. It's just not going to happen. And so many little things like that I'm going to go through. Of course, different effects chain, what order things naturally should normally go in. But then again, I'm going to encourage you to go out and, by God, find your own flipping sound and put the effects in the wrong order to get your sound. I want to hear music from somebody that doesn't suck. everything, 90% of everything on the radio sucks. I don't listen to the radio. I don't even have one in the car because music sucks. It has for so many years. And for those of you out there who ever say, I play a Les Paul because Slash plays one. Good enough for him, it's good enough for me. You guys are Guitarded. Okay, anybody who's ever said, if it's good enough for so-and-so, well, it's good enough for me, you are Guitarded. Okay? I know you're just laughing right back at me and you want to email me and chew me out. Fine, go ahead. But I'm the guy who pulls in more money than you can flip and imagine in your wildest dreams doing these videos. Okay? So I know what I am talking about. And I am here to prove it, okay? So anybody that wants honest to goodness help, and some of you Guitarded people, it's not too late to save you. Most of you it is, okay? Because you're so full of your own self, as I am. I'll admit it, because I don't know it all, but I know way more than most of you. And this is the true stuff, not just what you think is true. Yes, I love to ramble. That's why I get to talk for like 4 hours on this video. I'm going to love it. Okay? So there is so much information on here. It's all detailed down below and on the ad, unless you're just listening to this on YouTube or something. But once again, my name is Scott Grove, Grove. Look it up. I love to get in on chat rooms, guitar forums, and get kicked out of them. That is one of my favorite pastimes. Just I like to go in and stir up garbage between just all the guitards, the Guitarded people. So that's what I do. I love it. But like I said, this is the useful information for all you guys who are just starting out. This is the best money you're ever going to spend, because I'm going to let you have your own opinion, and your opinion is great. I will give you the facts. I will give you my opinion on certain things. My opinion ain't worth jack squat to most of you. So I'll try to stick mainly to what has been proven. And everything else will be, guitar setup. Like I said, real world stuff, how to properly do things on a real stage, how to do them in the clubs, how to do them, this way, that way. And like I said, what all guitar parts will affect your actual sound. And in what way. If you want it to sound like a junky, clangy, punk rock, type of mess, we can get you that sound. It's, it's all music. There is two types of music, good music and bad music. I want you to make good music, and I want you to find the tone that you are looking for, and I want your guitar to play that you want it to be played, the way you want it to feel. Don't let anybody else's idea of the way a guitar is supposed to feel, don't let anybody tell you that. I will tell you how to achieve getting your guitar set up to the way you want it to feel, the way you want it to sound. So I will tell you how to make it sound like garbage if that's how you want it to sound. And not to say, okay, here's how to make your guitar sound like garbage. It's like, here's how to achieve that punk rock sound. Here's how to achieve the classic, this particular country sound. But here's how to achieve Brad Paisley's sound, which is different than, God, anybody else's. He's got the best country tone in the world as far as I'm concerned, best country player out there. But anyway, there's all that. So once again, Scott Grove here, just rambling my butt off like I love to do, and I get paid for it. Thank you for allowing me to have this as my job. Again, so for all you folks that know it all and who are Guitarded, stay away from the video. I don't want you buying it. I don't want you even looking at the rest of this ad. So scurry along, little puppy dogs. Okay, so anyway, like I said, the best money you're ever going to invest right here. Grab the video, and you're going to learn so much here that you can quit school and go off and do like I did. No, I actually finished school. Go off and have a real career, make real money, and even if you don't want to make any money, just how to get a flipping guitar sound and how to get your guitar set up right. Okay, so I'm out of here. You kids have fun and get ready for more than you even bargained for. Okay, folks, here we go. We're going to talk about, like Ed talked about in the video, about sustain and how to get more sustain and what causes you to lose sustain and how you can gain sustain on your electric guitars. Okay, the deal is this. Okay, this is while your guitar is plugged in, of course. And even when it's not plugged in, this actually, a lot of this has bearing on it. Okay, I'd mentioned how like the Les Paul has the least amount of sustain out of pretty much any guitar out there. Okay, and that is true. What can you do to fix it, and what causes the lack of sustain that I say that there is? This is a fact on this guitar. This is not my opinion, okay? I told you I would tell you when things are fact and when they are opinion. Everything here is 100% proven and is fact, and all the pickup manufacturers are starting to get wind of this after all these years of somebody else making them right. So I will show you all kinds of things that will affect this. Number one being your pickups. Okay, the pickups on a Les Paul, okay, the one I had showed earlier, let's say the standard. Here it is, has the pickup covers on it, right? Okay. When you get down underneath to it all, what you have are two humbuckers, two humbucking pickups, okay? So you have a set of magnets underneath this bobbin, underneath this coil, and more magnets under here, under here, under here. So you have 4 places with magnets. These are fairly high output pickups, okay? As humbuckers are. They're quite a bit, by nature, a lot hotter, which means louder, have more output than standard single coil pickups. Okay, so why, if these are pickups are so much louder, do they have less sustain? Well, here is why. Because of the magnets, and the magnets are actually what actually picks up the strings are the magnets, okay? So that picks up the strings vibrations. Each of these screws and these pull pieces are connected to or surrounded by the magnets on the bottom of the pickups, okay? So these are magnetized all the way across, all the way across, all the way across, all the way across. Now, had it been actually all the way across, it would have been better. But no, they are single individual pull pieces. These are called pull pieces where they do not have screws. These are screws, okay? So for those that don't know it, there's a little extra information for you. Okay, let me get a better angle. Pull pieces right here. And these are adjustable screws so you can get them closer and closer and closer to the pickups. The closer your pickup gets to the strings, okay, the louder it will be. Okay, but here's the thing. We're talking about sustain. And here's what kills it. Number one, because you have these pickups in it. And because the magnets are what they are. What happens in a Les Paul or any, I'm using a Les Paul because this is true in actually any guitar that has humbuckers, or God forbid 3 humbuckers in it, with these type of screws and your pull pieces, is that you have a magnet, which is essentially there's just a magnetized screw in here. The string vibrates back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But what happens is this strong of a magnetic pole actually keeps the string from vibrating. So it wants to vibrate like this freely, but because of that magnet being there, it wants to stop real quick over top of it. So these are actually making your strings quit vibrating because it is coming to a magnetic center. Make sense? If there was no pickups in here at all, okay, these would actually keep on ringing. So your sustain would be so much more. Okay, but no, it has to stop because it's vibrating and then it just stops right over top of that magnet. Make sense? It's a law of physics. It's the way it is. Okay? So the thing that you can do to immediately increase your sustain on these guitars, which is opposite of what everybody does. Like I said, I've owned a couple thousand guitars. I've worked on them for gazillions of years. And what you want to do to actually improve your sustain is to move your pickups the heck away from your strings. And then just turn your amp up a little more. Okay? That will increase your sustain by pretty much double right away. Okay? So you do not want the pickups right up against the strings. You want them down. Start with them even with the pickup mounting rings. Take them all the way down there, and then all of a sudden you will notice, even without plugging in your guitar, that the guitar will just ring and ring and ring a lot longer than you've ever heard. And then go ahead, plug it in, and with them screwed way down there, flush with the mounting ring, meaning even with it, then you can raise it up just a little bit, and to get the desired sound you want, the equal. If of course it's going to be bassy, on your neck pickup, and of course the treble. So put it right here in the middle, get your desired balance between the two, but don't raise them up very much, because the more you raise them, okay, you've got a volume knob on your amp. That's what it's for. Turn the flipping thing up a little bit, okay, and get all your sustain back, because when you lower them pickups, that magnetic pull is not near what it is when you guys are shoving them, where you can barely slip a piece of paper between the pickup and the string. Okay, so I hope that makes sense to you, because if it doesn't, have have mercy on our souls. Okay, so that is the main problem with these type of pickups, whether it be on a Les Paul or a Tele or a Strat. Why did I say at the intro of this that this was the least sustaining one? Because there's 4 coils here, kids. Okay, when you get to a Telecaster, yeah, you have half the problem, because there's only 2 pickups. So it's the same thing though. Okay, so you've got, even under a regular Telecaster, you've got the metal cover. I doubt that I have to show you that. There's a few dozen of them behind me here. You're used to the metal cover that goes right over here. But underneath it, this is what it looks like. So you still have the same pull pieces here. They're magnetized the same way. If you lower them down, you will get more sustain. Period. It's the way it is. Okay? So again, they're just sitting there vibrating over top of those, and get it real close. The string wants to stop right above that magnet, because that's what they do. You put anything over top of a magnet, and it stops right on top of that magnet. Your strings are doing the same thing. Make sense? Okay. Now, let's get you some more sustain out of other places. Why did I bring up that this little toy had so much sustain? Okay, here's the reason. These pickups are lace sensor pickups, and they have like almost no magnetic pull whatsoever. It's a completely different design, and most companies now are going to the way that these actually operate. They like your rail pickups, people who've been using hot rails. You guys actually have a little bit of a edge, and you didn't know it maybe, on other people, because they actually have the rail that goes across here, instead of just a whole bunch of little 6 screws or what have you. But with the rail going across it, at least it's not stopping right in one place. It's just giving you more sustain, actually, if you want to go that route. But it's still nothing like, it's still magnetized as much as the other one, but it just has no center to stop over. But these type of pickups, you can slam them up as close as you want to the strings to get the volume you want out of each one, and it's still not going to put any, this is what is called drag, string drag. Okay, not like a drag queen. And for all you drag queens, hey, how you doing? I'm not trying to pick you up, trust me. Not that there's anything wrong with that. So what you have is the whole thing I've been yakking at for an hour now is called string drag. And this is not my theory. Again, this is all proven fact. But the lace sensors and other pickups now that are coming out do not have string drag. Most people are saying we have now 40% less string drag. These have like 80% less than all the others, and these are my personal favorites. Our lace sensor pickups are my personal favorites. Okay, they don't have to be yours, but if you want to try some of them out, they make so many different kinds, and it's available on the Lace website. Watch which ones are going to sound like what. Everybody makes pickups, and they all make 100 different models, and they have a description of what they're going to sound like, and most of them are pretty accurate. Okay, so that is one of the reasons. Okay, the main reason is because there's no magnetic drag on the strings like I've been showing you. The other thing being, okay, I will set this one down for a second. Some of you people. Okay, I'm sorry, but this is decades to have to undo and deprogram some of you people. The nut on a guitar. Okay, whether it's made out of bone or made out of plastic, whatever, that is your other problem. One of your other problems. Whether it's bone or plastic, it doesn't matter. Neither one's actually any better than the other. Both of them kill your sustain. Okay? So whichever you have, that's killing your sustain also. So what can I do about that? Well, number one, as showed in this guitar, and I have, like I said, a gazillion guitars to show you around here. Okay, on this particular guitar, what you have here is what's called a 0 fret. This makes more sense than any guitar ever made, or the principle behind the thing, the fret itself, that 0 fret. I'll show it to you on earlier guitars when they actually had their stuff together. I will break out a 1979 Kramer. This was back when the necks were made out of aluminum. Okay, check out the nut on this thing. Yep, it's got the 0 fret right here, and the strings actually go right on top of that fret. And the nut and the headstock, everything is made out of metal. But most importantly, where the strings finally end and stop making noise, so when you have your open strings, your open notes are going to sound exactly the same as your fretted notes, because it is, yes, a fret made out of the same material as your frets. Why do you want a different sound with a plastic or a bone nut up there when you have open notes and it sounds like thud, 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 and then you play a fret, metal against metal, and it springs to life? Why? Because that's the guitarded thing. Okay, so this is fact. This is not my doing, but it is fact. I own a ton of these guitars that have metal nuts. Now, I know you're all laughing. Nuts are funny. Okay, but sometimes they're necessary. Fender did a wonderful job with all their different, like, say, Strat Plus guitars. Okay, here you got them. You have what is actually their roller nuts. Pretty much, it's made out of the same material, the 2 bars that are actually inside of this, as your frets are. So there is no loss of sustain, and there is no change in tone because of you using a plastic or a bone nut. Ergo, hey, I learned that in school. 2nd grade, but it was still school. I told you I attended. You have more sustain, and your open notes sound the same as your fretted notes. Okay? People say, well, I've been using, I don't care what the heck you've been using. I'm telling you the facts. This is what it is. Just because Jimi Hendrix didn't do it, well, what Jimi Hendrix did was kill his damn self from all the drugs and drinking and stuff. So now listen up. These are the facts. This is how you get sustain. Number one, hey, we're back to lace sensor pickups again. Again, only my personal favorite. Again, no string drag here whatsoever. And we'll talk about these saddles and stuff here in a little bit too with your sustain, because they play a huge role also in your sustain compared to other guitars. But you can fix these. There are aftermarket parts for every guitar out there. Okay, and I'll tell you what they are. You can buy these, or the LSR, which came later. Heck, let's just show you one of my custom-made ones. Fender stuck them on some of their guitars later on. Okay, it's just right here. And here's another version of it. And it's got rollers in it. and another Fender product, LSR roller nut. So there's no binding here. Your strings do not get caught and go pink when you're tuning them up, and when you're bending notes and go out of tune and all that, they just roll right through there, and there is no friction at all. Okay, that's a whole nother part we'll get to in a little bit. But this keeps your sustain level high. Metal on metal. Anything else and you lose sustain. Period. That's the whole concept of this little talk. Is metal on metal equals more sustain. You want more sustain? Want more sustain? Do that. Get you a metal nut. Do not get copper. Okay, there was a time. And like I said, I just like going through all this. And when I disappear from frame, I'll keep yakking. You'll hear me. Do not do what Gibson did. And so many other people back in the 70s and early 80s. Okay, here's a metal nut. They were on the right idea, but God love them, God hate them. That's copper, folks. Okay. Actually, that's brass. It's fine. But do not do copper. People use copper for a while. Copper is a soft metal, and it actually mellows out the tone of your guitar. Now, that is not a bad thing to know, okay? That if your guitar is just flat out too bright for some reason, and you still want some sustain, but you want to mellow out the tone of your guitar, say you have a Telly, which is known for biting your flipping head off. You love everything about it, but you would just love to take some of that sharp edge off of just the whole guitar. Throw a brass nut on it. It'll just mellow it out just enough to get rid of that without sacrificing any of the actual major tonality of the guitar. You will get an increased sustain over the plastic nut that is generally on them. But being that it's a copper nut, it will sustain longer than the plastic, but it will not sustain as long as, like, say, the steel ones that I've just shown you. Okay? So it will sustain longer, but it will mellow your guitar out. So copper is not a bad thing if that's what you're looking for. These are just tools to help you get to where you want. So again, if you have something that you want to mellow out, but you still want more sustain, then copper is fine. It just won't last as long as the steel, and you will have a different tone than your steel frets. Okay? So it'll be a slightly different tone, but you already have a hugely different tone. You just probably can't hear it, because if you're one of the people that play with distortion on all the time, basically none of this actually matters, because you can't hear the tone of your guitar anyway. And that's not to be mean, that's just the way it is. You know, it's just, if you play clean, you'll hear all this stuff. If you play distorted, you know, it is what it is. So another thing, as far as on the bridge end, okay, here comes the fun. To deprogram so many of you. Good Lord, okay, let's take one of the biggest offenders. And from the Fender. Okay, this is just pitiful. Okay, the typical Telecaster ashtray bridge. Okay, what is bad about this? Okay, you have brass saddles. Okay, so that's, number one, that's killing some of your sustain. Number two, but it is mellowing out some of your tone. But the thing that really kills it is the fact that these that are known as your saddles stand up on two little legs, right? So there's two little legs underneath there, and that's what, you know, adjusts the height of your pickups. So underneath there's two little legs. They're not going to transfer a whole lot of string vibration down to the guitar, you know. So you get these two little bitty set screws, and yet they're like this long underneath there, and then they rest against the metal plate, but they're not transferring much noise there, so you lose a lot of sustain there. So what can you do about that? Number one, if you want more sustain, go with a different alloy of metal, being the steel. You know, they make them. They make everything. You do not want to do this, which is horrid. I'll probably go through the whole room, which is fine. But Ovation made, these old breadwinners. These are nylon, believe it or not, nylon saddles back here. That's the same as putting basically a plastic nut back here at your bridge. You're like, well, of course, everybody's got the plastic up here. It's like, well, then you might as well put it down here too. Everybody makes so much fuss about, what their saddles are made of. But why not do the same thing up here as you're doing down here? You got to have metal saddles, so you better go with the metal nut, kids. Okay, what's good for one side of the guitar is good for the other side. There's two sides to it, so quit thinking one-dimensionally here. Okay, now one of the guitars around here that will best represent my point. Let's see. Is going to be this. This will give you the most sustain you can get out of a bridge. Okay? Pretty much, period. I'll show you a couple other ones that can do it. Right there. All one piece. Wrap around. It's a bridge. It's a stop tail piece. Everything all in one. And it's got these two great big old bolts here to, so everything is vibrating against one big, massive chunk of steel here. Okay? So that is giving you more sustain than you can shake a flippin' stick at. Okay? This is on a Paul Reed Smith. Okay? So those are one way to get huge amounts of extra sustain. Okay? And you can see why. It's just everything vibrating with everything else. If you're playing a full chord, you've got 6 strings all vibrating together on one piece of solid metal. Okay, so that makes for huge sustain. Individual saddles, not as much. But if you put them on a bridge the right way, you can still get a lot. Okay, I'll show you one of those ways. Da-da-da. It's all about mass for the most part, meaning how much material there is there. I had a guitar made for me quite similar to the one we just saw here. And again, I go for the same thing because of that. Just one big chunk. There's my bridge. Okay? Big old Iceman looking thing, but I wanted my big sustain. By God, I tell you what, I've got it, kids. Why? Because I know what to do. That's why I'm making the video. If I didn't know what the hell I was doing, I wouldn't do the video. Okay, when you get to floating tremolos and so forth like that, believe it or not, you're not losing as much as you would think. You get to something like, let's go back to, grab a different one. I had this one earlier. Why not? Okay, on a Strat. These are the best. You'll notice these from, this is actually a Strat Plus, but from your American Series Fender guitars. These are huge blocks of steel here that they're using on their saddles. Okay? Not the little wimpy from here. Here's where they had these little bitty guys. Okay, so you've seen these. And they even make some that are like almost like they're aluminum. I'll show you that too. And because I'm going to point out every little possible angle I can. See what we got on that one. That'll do it. This is a bad Strat bridge. Bad boy. But these are vintage stuff. Vintage stuff is vintage for one reason, because they've made improvements. Everybody's on a vintage kick. Get off of it for once. By God, they're even doing road-worn series of guitars. How retarded. Every guitar already beat the hell and pay extra for it. Anyway, these little things that are made out of, they're steel, but they're might as well be aluminum. They have no sustaining properties really whatsoever. But these are what you will find on vintage instruments and on the newest onslaught of Fender guitars. Even on the American standards, they went back to these, which is Guitarded. They had it right for so long, and now they're going back to the old stupid ways, but that's mass manufacturing for you. Okay, so anyway, these work out quite nicely. and especially if you choose to block your tremolo, which I'll show you later, but where it actually ends up being that your this whole thing is actually coming in contact with the body of your guitar instead of free floating anymore. Okay, and there's a big block in the back, your tremolo block, which I will show you. You can change that out and it will actually add a little bit of sustain for you if you care to. But the bigger the amount of material that the string has to go into, the better. And all these dudes are rubbing right on up against each other. They're not separated. They're separate pieces, but they're touching each other, which helps it all resonate as one, as I was showing you on the Paul Reed Smith. So this is a good way to go. Okay? So that will also increase your sustain. There are the Floyd Rose and so forth. They are what they are, and you can't do anything with them, so you choose to use one or you choose not to use one. Okay, on the Gibsons, okay, or anything this style that uses a two-nomatic bridge, what you have here is a little bitty post underneath here, underneath your bridge. So it's not transferring much vibration down that way. Okay. You have this one back here that could, but most of your vibration's already killed once it passes the bridge. Okay, so it hits this. Your strings are going over water, basically little knife edges, which is not good. That's major string breakage just waiting to happen for you. Especially if you throw a whammy on there, like a Bigsby or something. You're doing a whammy, and your strings are scraping across bridge pieces that are shaped like knives. You're just cutting your strings in half, so think that one over. How about a roller bridge? That's the way you fix that one, children's. And I'll go over that in a little bit since it's something else and it has nothing to do with sustain for the most part. But you're going on top of these little bitty things, so you're getting no sustain out of such a small contact area there. Okay? See there? Your string is coming in contact with something that's about the size of a pube there. And you're not going to get any sustain out of that. It has to come in contact with a massive chunk of metal. Okay? And string through the body guitars do not add any extra sustain. No matter what anybody will tell you, that is fact, not my thing. That is proven. Because once it passes here, that's where the end of your vibration ends. So for it to continue on and then go through the body does nothing. Zero, zilch, nada, not a flippin' thing no matter who you've heard it from. So even because Slash said it, no. But it's the same basic principle, you're just talking guitardation there. So, bad design. They make bridges that have, well, I'll show you. Aftermarket bridges, aftermarket nuts, aftermarket everything, because those type of guitars basically fall apart as soon as you take the strings off. These are wonderful saddles, and this is back to the little broomstick again. But you have, again, big masts for them to go across. They're touching each other, the saddles are, and you're getting a big constant vibration going between each one because they're touching each other, and also because there's a lot of contact between the string and the saddle. And plus there's the whole roller thing there, so you're not going to hit sharp edges, you're not going to break strings, you're not going to go out of tune like you will with that with the Les Paul that I just showed you. So huge advantages. They make roller bridges for Les Pauls, greatly increases the sustain. They make the metal nuts for the Les Pauls to increase the sustain. Why do they do all this? Because it is a failed design. It is not failed in the fact that everybody keeps using it because they think that that's the guitar they're supposed to have because somebody says a Les Paul is the best guitar ever. Far from it, folks. It's probably one of my least favorite guitars in the world is a Les Paul. Not only because I'm a country freak, but because it's just not a great guitar. It can be if you put the right parts on it, and the parts are available. I know everybody's yelling at me, but like I said, this is all strictly fact. This is not my opinion. It's just not a great guitar, no matter how you look at it. What's going to happen? The first thing, one of these guitars, you've known this for years, a guitar like this with a tilt back headstock, does that increase sustain? People call this, your angle break because it's putting extra pressure on your nut here to give you more sustain. No, what's going to happen is your neck's going to break off. This guitar falls over once, it's gone. You've got, a few $1,000s invested in this thing. Your guitar is history. Okay? Does the fact that the neck is set or even a neck through increase sustain? No, not at all. Bolt-on neck, just as much, if not more, sustain. It's wood meeting wood, where you got wood meeting a gasket full of glue and then meeting wood. So you have, so glue is not a good conductor of sustain. So you have a glued in neck. Think it through, kids. So there is so much not correct here. Again, with the tilt back design on the headstock, and people saying you have to have a certain break angle is what they call it. It breaks at this angle and puts all this downward pressure on the nut. Sure, you have to have just enough pressure to actually, I don't care if this neck was laying, or the headstock was laying back this way, it would not increase your sustain any. Okay? It just does not. And with the Fender design, what they do, you've all seen it. They just put in, these little string retainers right here. And that puts a little downward pressure, because without them, they would just zoom right over top of and miss the nut and go straight to your tuners. What have they invented since then are height compensated tuners. And every guitar should have them. I have them on my guitars. Why? Because I know how to design and build a guitar and what does what. Other people sell you stuff that they think that you want. Well, they know you want it because they force it down your throats. But the tuners get gradually smaller as they go down, so they're barely, they don't even need the string trees anymore. Hell, let me pop down any given guitar I have. It don't matter. I'll just break this Barney down again, my purple one. Let's go to the top of the neck here. You will see, if you can see, the high E string closest to you. The string tree is very small there, and it gets gradually higher as it goes towards the low E, which is way up here. Then they get taller, but there's no need for any string trees. The neck does not tilt back at all. And I have more sustain than you do. Plain and simple, I do. And because of all these different things. Okay, major high mass bridge again. And yes, bolt on, because more sustain, believe it or not. These are facts, not fiction, not just my preference. But again, height compensated tuners will do away with all that having to have a guitar and thinking with a tilt back headstock and having to think you have to have some major break angle. Look, do you see much of an angle there? Nope, just enough to get the strings down there and on. And I have more sustain, like I said, than you do. So that is pretty much it on the whole sustain end of things. There's more that could be told about it, but those are the biggest things. Get your pickups, if they are magnetic, which I'm sure yours are. Set them way down, even with the either the pick guard or your pickup mounting ring, and then start with your amplifier volume up more, and just bring them up to where just enough to where it balances out your sound. Have your pickup selector where you want it. Just check it out so your sound is right. Okay, and don't worry about how high up your pickups are, because the further away they are, the more sustain you're going to have. The rest of it is just metal. It's all about metal. Okay, not heavy metal, but you got to have. If you want more sustain, go after metal, whether it be a roller nut, which is a beautiful thing because you will never have to put graphite inside of your nut again, or none of the stupid tricks that everybody has to do because their guitar is made wrong. And I'll get back into that whole mess in a little bit, and we'll talk about that. But that is it. High mass bridges, parts all touching parts, not little bitty stubs of the Allen wrench things. You need, your strings to go over something that is going to vibrate all in unison. You play a big chord, the whole flippin' bridge vibrates, and it's made out of metal. It's not made out of nylon. It's not little bitty Les Paul Tune-O-Matic little bridge saddles. You need some contact with some real metal. Okay, so that is the majority of the whole sustain thing. Believe it or else. Okay, none of that was my personal preference, even though, yeah, I listen to reason and I get my guitars built the right way. And that's the truth on that. So sustain 101, folks. Take it for what you will, but every last bit of it is fact. None of it has been made up. At no time did my hands leave my fingers. Okay, so there you go. Sustain, analyzed, and that's the way it is. Okay, now we're going to talk about tone woods. Okay? No such thing. Okay? On acoustic guitars, yeah. On electric guitar, yes, until you plug it in. Okay? It's just the way it is. After you plug it in, everything as far as what kind of wood you are using, or if your guitar is made out of some man-made material, or if it's made out of Limburger cheese, it does not matter one bit. Not the body, not the neck, not the fretboard. None of it makes a single bit of difference as far as tone, because wood is not magnetic and it is not picked up by your pickups, as I mentioned in the intro. Okay? So I will kind of go across this a little bit, and also on the finishes. The main debate being poly versus nitro. Okay? Basically Gibson versus Fender for the most part. Okay? So let's discuss this real quick. Polyurethane, whatever. Let's get a nice, something bright and glittery. Oh hell, there's nothing more glittery. It don't matter. Just grab a Fender, any Fender. Okay, so you've got, major shine. This is, 8, 10, 13 coats of polyurethane. Okay, so it's just gonna shine, 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 and it will stay this way for pretty much its entire life if you take care of it, if you wipe it down, and it's not going away. Okay? It might, in 40 years, check on you, meaning like, slight little finish cracks or what have you, just because it's old and that's where she goes. But other than that, a poly finish looks like a piece of furniture that has, it's just a bright, shiny new car. Okay, so that finish, it's forever, okay? And that's what I'm always going to use. Okay, so that is my preference, is a poly. People are on a big vintage kick. Why? Because they like it, I guess. Okay, I would not pay a single red cent for a road-worn series or anything that is pre-made to look old. To me, that is Guitarded, but that is my opinion, okay? I told you I would separate fact from my opinion. Well, that's my opinion. That's pretty Guitarded as far as I'm concerned. Okay, what poly is? Okay, here's a Gibson S1. Okay, don't matter what the guitar is. It's a Gibson. This is a poly finish, okay? It has been played. It looks like it's been played. The shine, other than the fact that I'm using 1,000,000-watt bulbs here, is pretty much gone. And it looks like a vintage instrument. Why? Because this is a 1976. Vintage? No, not really. But some of you people, this is twice as old as you are. But that is a nitro finish. Even the back of the neck. Look at this. And some of you people see beauty in this. I don't see any beauty in it, but I've got tons of these guitars. Why? Because they sound fantastic. I was mentioning at one point, I want to talk about sustain. This brings us back in. If you have pickups like this with a bar across it instead of the individual screws and so forth, these will actually have a better carryover in sound and sustain than the individual pull pieces. Okay, so that is poly. What else is poly? That is nitro. Sorry for my screw up. I do not edit. I let crap roll. Okay. You have to be careful when you go to hang these puppies up on, like these things behind me, or when you go to set them on a guitar stand, or when you go to wipe them down, or when you blow your nose. You think I'm teasing? No, I'm not. Okay. Guitar brand new. You have to buy the nitro safe hangers. Okay. Otherwise, this guitar was brand new. See this? This is all the way to the wood from hanging on a hanger. Okay. That's on both sides of the neck, of course. If this was to be sat on a guitar stand, the finish would be missing right here where it sits on both parts of the guitar stand, because this is nitro. It is soft as butter for the most part, okay? For real. So that is what happens when you get nitro. People live and die by this stuff. I'm going to show you another example of what this stuff does. I've got like 20 guitars here at least with that same problem going on. I call it a problem because I like bright and shiny. But, like I say, here's another Gibson, again, with the nitro. And you go to actually rub these guitars down with a cheesecloth, which is what you're always supposed to use, never a rag, okay, but just to rub it down. And for real, little food in my mouth, spitting. Hey, that's what I do. It's my house. You go to wipe these things down, and the finish will, if you actually wipe it enough, it will smear. It will come off on your rag. It really will. And it has on here. When I first got this guitar, I tried to get some of the major smudges off, and I ended up dulling the guitar more by polishing it because it just simply moved the coating around. How ridiculous is that? But that is what it is. Okay, so with nitro finishes, what they are in reality is a way of making your guitar look old before its time. If you are into the whole vintage vibe thing and you buy a guitar that is brand spanking new, and you want it to look old, you want it to look 40 years old in a year's time, then play it 6 nights a week for a year, and it will look 40 years old. That's the primary attraction for most people on the nitro finish. If I keep screwing up and saying poly nitro, you know which one I'm talking about. So the nitro wears off. If I screw up and say poly, that's because I'm pretty much brain dead from, well, having been on the road for so many years. You do certain things. Anyway, and so you can make a 1-year-old guitar look 40 years old like this one in a year if you just play it. Don't sand it down. You'll see those road-worn things where they're actually worn up here. People don't play up here, so why should the finish be missing up here? That is just beyond amazement to me. But anyway, back to what we're supposed to be talking about, or what I'm supposed to be talking about, is that the finishes make zero effect on the sound of your guitar once it's plugged in. Okay? So no matter what kind of finish, or if you don't have any finish at all, it will not make a 1 iota of a difference in the way your guitar sounds when you have it plugged in. Again, no matter what your guitar is made of. Okay? People say, okay, I have this Les Paul, which, like 9 out of 10, I won't say all of them because not all of them are made out of mahogany. Okay, so you have the mahogany body, mahogany neck, rosewood fingerboard, and a maple cap on the front for the flaming. So because maple's the only thing that can look like this, so they put a thin cap of maple over the top to make it look like this. Now, does the maple cap that they put on here to make it look pretty, they say, okay, a maple cap is supposed to be brighter sounding, and so your Les Paul doesn't sound so dark and warm. It'll add a little bit of snap to it. Yeah, it will, until you plug it in. Okay? Right now, this is an acoustic guitar until you plug it in. So everything affects everything. What color shirt you're wearing, everything, pretty much. If I'm wearing this golf shirt, or if I'm wearing a t-shirt, or if I'm wearing a silk shirt, it will, in some minute way that you cannot measure by your ear, affect the way it is. Or if I take it away from my body and play it, or if I hold it against my body, yeah, it will sound different until you plug it in. Okay? So acoustic instruments are totally different than what I'm talking about. These are electric guitars once they are plugged in. Okay, so nothing makes a difference other than, here's the things that make the difference. Your pickups, what kind they are, how they're adjusted, what your strings are made out of, how much junk and crud and crap you have in between the windings, so how dead your strings are, and what your bridge and what your nut are basically made out of. And that's it. That's all that will affect your sound, other than the big 80% of if you're worth a crap and how you play. Okay, that's the main factor, how you attack your guitar. Okay, the other one being, of course, the wiring, and if you have your everything on 10 on your guitar or not, because once you take everything off 10, everything drastically changes. That's a whole different section. Okay, but as far as the finish of a guitar or the wood affecting your tone when it's plugged in and your amp is turned on and up, no, not one bit. You can even ask people at Gibson and Fender, and they will tell you different. Why? Because they are liars. Okay, plain and simple. Fender's current ad runs now, like I told you before. Try the new Nitro finish. It lets the wood breathe and opens up the tone. That is cow crap right there. That's a bold-faced lie. 100%. Fender, shame on you. If Leo was alive, Leo Fender never did learn how to play a guitar, and that's fact also. In case anybody ever wondered, nope. Man never played a guitar. Interesting, but true. Okay, so he would roll over in his grave with all this stuff. I'm sure he was glad to get away and go hang off with, when he went off the G&L, and was hanging off with George, but none of this has anything to do with your sound. Like I said, a magnetic pickup does not pick up your wood or your finish. And that's about all there is to it. I can't go into it any deeper because there is nothing deeper. If you have a maple fingerboard, yes, it will, the frets themselves are embedded into the maple, which is a brighter sounding wood. So the frets being mounted into the maple, once you fret the note, will have a snappier tone acoustically until you plug it in. And then if you was to have rosewood on here, then it would be a little bit mellower and it would not snap as much. It would be duller. And it's true. Everything you've heard about, all that stuff, maple having more snap and brightness, yes, it's true. Rosewood being darker, mellower, yes, it's true. Until you plug the guitar in, and then all bets are off. And that's all I got to say about that. Okay, that's just okay. That's the truth. There's no arguing. You can argue it all you want, but you're going to be wrong. All your friends can argue it. Any builder, luthier can argue it. You can write me. You can threaten me with death mail. You can't imagine how many people threaten to kick my butt on a daily basis because I come out with all this stuff. Okay? But it is what it is. And I don't mind being, some crazy freak will probably end up knocking me off one of these days. And that's fine. I'd just rather some of you guys actually know the truth. If one of you is saved, then I've done my job. Okay, so that's all I got to say about that. That's it in a nutshell. Okay, finishes, wood, are not magnetically transferable. So the way it is. Once your guitar is plugged in, it's plugged in. None of it matters. So that's that. Okay, right now we're going to talk about your nuts. That's right, you're all nuts. I know, your minds went there, mine did too. Anyway, your nut and your bridge. Basically, what this part is about is quick and easy to get through. The nut on your guitar, again, let me find one. Dun, 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 dun. This one, duh. Okay, again, the best nut around for a guitar is a roller nut, unless you have a whammy system, of course. That is a locking system, and I will go over that with you in 2 seconds. But if you have a standard guitar, and the best nut around is going to be a roller one. Why? Because if you don't have it, okay, these create, no matter what, any angles they go over, friction free. So if you are a player who plays over top of the nut, or what some people call behind the nut, your guitar will return to perfect tune every single time because there is zero friction going across here. Okay, why would you not want that? I have no flippin' idea. Okay, but people are human and they do what they do. Again, back to my personal least favorite type of guitar. One of the companies that makes so many companies make this mistake, especially things with way pointier headstocks than this, especially when you get like the Dean, where they got big old swooping headstocks. If you have any kind of guitar, like on a Les Paul, which is very minimal, actually, but enough to make this a living nightmare, where the strings have to go at an angle to get to the tuners, and you have anything other than a roller nut, you will have problems with tuning and binding and string breaking and all that. It's just the way it is. Okay, so that being said, let's find something that actually is a good thing, and that would be, let's go back to my good old buddy Paul Reed Smith here and grab this guy. And okay, this is a special Budweiser graphic on this thing. Anyway, what you have here are what's called a straight string pull. And you have a graphite nut, or Graflon. It's part synthetic and part graphite, and it's supposed to be self-lubricating. Sounds more like a sex toy. But you have a straight string pull, meaning it goes right from here, straight through the nut, right to the key, and there is no chance of it having to make any great angles that will dig into and actually literally cut into the nut of the guitar, creating all kinds of problems, which I will describe. Okay, so these pull straight to it. This is called a straight string pull. And again, the nut is better, not great, but better than plastic or bone, because in regular guitars that do use, like I told you, I'll disappear, that do use plastic or bone nuts. Back to the Les Paul. What you're going to have with all these angles is that after you keep bending these notes, okay, you are actually creating a increase in pressure here too, because you're bending on the string, okay, and that tightens up the pressure here, and it will get bound inside of this nut. After so much time, it actually cuts into this fake material, whether it's real bone or plastic. It will cut a groove into there, and it will eventually snag in there and get caught and cause you tons of tuning problems, where at that point you will have to take a pencil and shave it with a knife onto a piece of paper and get as much lead as you can, or graphite, on there, and sit there and look like you're doing some kind of drug deal and dumping it into the grooves or the slots on your nut to try to help it kind of go through there easier. Why? Because it's an inferior nut. replace the stupid thing. Just get it done. Why deal with something that is not perfect? Why settle for something that's not perfect? Why pay this much money for something that is not perfect? I don't know. I do it strictly for the collectible version, thing of it, and I'm going to retire on selling my collection here soon. But as far as a playable guitar, go ahead and make the modifications. But you're going to have to do that. You're going to have to put graphite in there and all that kind of junk in order to keep everything from breaking and constantly going out of tune, because it will get hung up in there. Your string tension will not flow through and then go back to where it's supposed to be, because it will be getting hung up on some slot that was created by you bending the strings, or just by it being at an angle and not being a straight string pull. Okay, makes sense? So you get your more extreme shaped headstocks being on your Explorers or on your Dean guitars or what have you. You're going to have major problems there. Fenders don't have that problem, but they're just an out of tune sounding guitar anyway. I'll get to more of that in a minute. The only way you're going to get a perfectly intonated guitar is if there's one guy working on it now, but if some of your frets are shaped like S's and snakes and everything, a guitar is not a perfectly tuned instrument. There's no way to tune it perfectly. It's just not a perfect instrument in any way, shape, or form. Okay, but at least here, okay, you can still have the same thing because it's a synthetic material, it's plastic, and it will eventually have its problems, and you'll have to cut it, replace it, have somebody. If you're going to do a nut job, which I am a nut job, of course, best to have somebody else do it. That's a very difficult thing to do. If your strings are set up, like way, okay, this is cut very well. See how close this string is to the first fret here going through? If your string was actually off way up here in the air, then you need some deeper grooves cut. Let somebody else do it. I can teach you to do it, but you're probably going to mess it up. Okay, so that is one of the few things I would actually recommend. You let somebody cut your nut slots for you. That's a very intricate job, and you don't have the tools for it, and you don't want to buy the tools because they will cost more than your guitar. So that's about the only thing that I'm not going to teach you to do, is how to do your own nut slots. Okay, so even with the little tiny break in angle here on a Fender, when you're playing it, yes, it will get caught up in here because it is a synthetic material and there's no graphite in here, so you might have to put some in there too, just to help it along, because it was made wrong to begin with. If you get too, I don't know, nobody wants to play these, but why? Because you're too vain, quite honestly. But these headless things were the greatest, one of the greatest things invented, because you never have to put up with that, ever. Okay? There's no such thing as you're not going to have a nut problem, because there isn't one. Okay? Again, and then on the bridges, same thing. If you can do a roller bridge on every guitar you have, it will eliminate 100% of your problems. Okay? With the problems that will come up, I have said it before, I'll say it again. Again, back to the typical few guitars around that make any difference. Like on a Les Paul, like I said, the saddles on these are basically, like I said, like a butter knife, and you're just setting the string on there and you're just asking for trouble. They do have a tiny groove in them to keep them in place. Okay, and just so they won't slide back and forth. But they are almost knife sharp, and they will saw your string in half. It's just the way it is. You play like this, you start bending your strings, it's going to go on here, and it's going to go back and forth, and it's going to break your string. When you do break strings, look at, before you throw it away and put on another string, look at where it broke. Okay, because you want to fix that. Did it break? Right here. Put it on your guitar again, look at it. If it broke right here, you have, more than likely, other than just stupidity on the design of this bridge, what is called a burr. All that is a piece of metal that is in there that is not supposed to be there. It is just a slight imperfection, a bump, if you will, of metal. And easiest way to do it, go to the hardware store, or better yet, a garage sale for a nickel. Get you a 3-sided metal file like this. It's a metal file. Not a pedophile, it's a metal file. You don't have to put a sign in your front yard to have one of these. Okay? And you simply get under a microscope. I know you don't have a microscope. Get you one of them little magnifying glasses. You'll be able to see that little hunk that is cutting your string and breaking your string. Just get in there with this little thing. Saw it off. Okay? You can find a magnifying glass. I know I need a magnifying glass to find half the stuff I got on me at this age and at this weight. But I told you this video is going to be crude, so deal with it. And just file that little burr off. If your strings are not staying in place back there on your saddles, on a saddle such as a Gibson type, then by all means use this file to actually cut a V-shaped groove into it so it will stay put. You do not want it going back and forth, like I was just telling you when you're bending your strings and sawing your strings in half. So create a little notch in there for your string to be cradled into. You will actually gain a slight bit of sustain because it will actually be making contact with more than just the tip of that saddle. So notch you with the corner, make a little notch in there for the string to rest in, because otherwise it's just going to go all over the place. And plus, if you get it in exactly the spot that you want it, then slide your string to the side after you loosen it and make that notch, and your guitar string, every time you restring it, will always be in that same place instead of you having to drag it across during string changes and putting it where you want, therefore pretty much cutting your string in half before you even get to play on it. So just pre-notch. Don't be afraid to do it. These things, what, are $1 a piece to buy these anywhere, and saw into it. If you screw up, put another one on it. It's no big deal. But that is the big deal with the string breakage on there and with your nut on your guitar. Again, if you got a really wild shaped guitar, get a roller nut and just have it put on there. Fender makes the LSR nut, which is what I use on pretty much everything. They just work. As many rollers as you can get. If you can get roller saddles on everything, they will just roll, and you cannot get a single spot that will break. Your guitar will stay in such amazing tune you won't believe it, and your string breakage will go down to pretty much nothing unless you just never change your strings. Okay, so there's my hints on that. They have just made them wrong. People always say this, and I see this on every guitar forum out there. Well, Fender made it right to begin with, so it's... No, he didn't. Especially talk about Tellys, those guys. This is what you hear. He made it right to begin with. No, he made it out of pine to begin with, which was too soft. And now they're making them again out of pine just for nostalgia's sake, for some 60-year anniversary of the Telly. But it's guitarded. It's too soft. It dents like crazy, but people want it to look like it's, 60 years old. So they buy into this and they pay, $6,000, $8,000 for something that never worked in the first place, which is why he changed it, kids. He didn't put a truss rod in the original guitars, the original Tellys, Esquires, Broadcasters, whatever have you, and the neck's all warped. So no, he didn't do it right the first time, and then it has been done correctly. Japanese have actually come pretty close. Quickest way to fix a Telecaster, right here, my friends. The way they were a few years ago till they started screwing them up again. 6 saddles will cure you every time. Again, more sustain, blah, blah, blah. But that's a better bridge than any other Telly's going to have. It just works better. It's just a much, much better design. Plus, you can actually almost intonate the thing. You can never get a guitar intonated. There is no guitar that will intonate properly, period. It does not exist. Like I said, there's a guy that's doing tempered guitar necks where the frets are actually shaped different for every single string on every single thing, and it's quite the deal to see. Here is your Floyd Rose type of lock nut. This is the only thing as far as whammy bar stuff that will work for you. If you get one where it is behind the nut. Do I have one of those nut jobs? Yes, I do. Reason being, I will show you. Okay, once again, that Floyd Rose, even though that's a Kaler that's actually installed on this guitar, and that's a real Fender guitar. Let's go with this one. This is a real Fender guitar. Everything I have here is 100% stock, except for that weird Steinberger thing I showed you. This particular Fender Telecaster, okay. The lock nut on it, you see it is behind the nut. It will not stay in tune. Why? Because it will be binding between here and here. Yes, that little 1/2 inch makes all the difference in the world. Where you had the Floyd Rose taking place of the nut, that sucker will stay in tune like you could dive bomb Eddie Van Halen your butt off. It will be fine forever. This much of you letting it groove into here and do what I was talking about, getting all caught up and making grooves, that will throw your guitar totally out of whack. So anybody who adds one of these to the back or any guitar, that is not going to solve any tuning problem whatsoever, even though, yes, we have, again, the roller, here, like most of your, except for the Floyd Rose, won't have the rollers. It's just double locked. When you use a system such as this on the Kaler, when you actually whammy down, the ball end of the string actually shifts position in there. So it can come back in any, whatever tuning, but unless it's actually a double locking system where you actually have to cut the ball end off or put, whatever it takes, and then you actually lock it in here, it is not going to return to pitch. So any other design is majorly flawed and will not hold tune. And of course, a Fender whammy will never hold tune, no matter how well you set it up. I will show you how to properly set one up. Yeah, I know, so-and-so played it. Have you ever heard Hendrix? Have you ever heard him play in tune with a Strat? That's what happens when you use a whammy on a Strat. Yeah, you've heard guys that play a Strat at a concert, the lights go down, they play the next song, they use the whammy during the previous song. They come back, and hey, they're still in tune. Guess what? They just had a guitar tech bring them another guitar that was in tune because he used the whammy subtly, But guess what? That much. I am out of tune as all get out just doing that one time. And this is set up proper. That's because that right there, folks. Okay? It's because you have nothing here. It's binding up here. It's if I had a roller nut, that problem would be 50% gone. Okay, so quick little thing there. So if you're thinking you're going to get a whammy to stay in tune, other than a Floyd Rose type thing where it's locked up there and it's double locked, okay, and you still have the guitar ball ends on one end, never going to happen. Okay, and I'll get into setting those up, but then again, it's still never going to stay in tune, no matter what you do. You can do slight whammy things with these, and I will tell you about that when we get there. So there you go. There's some quick insight to the whole nut versus bridge thing and how they're going to cut your strings in half, because they will. So your only real answer to even a Les Paul guitar or type of guitar, something that has that setup, is aftermarket, which means replacement parts, roller stuff. I know you don't want it on there, but by golly, if you want it to work, and to work all the time, that is everybody's answer for it. That's not my opinion, that's the answer. That is what works. Everything else, you're shaving pencils in there, and you're doing it every time. You're sticking Vaseline, WD-40, boy butter, whatever it takes in all these parts, trying to make it work. And that's because the guitar is flawed from its inception, from its design, from the get-go. Okay, because it's not made right. Okay, it's an okay guitar, but it has so many flaws that need to be fixed. But they're not going to be fixed because the masses are guitarded, and they're going to want things to stay the same. That's just the way it is. So if you want to be among the Guitarded and be a follower and not somebody who actually stays in tune and never makes a difference in the world, then so be it. But you bought the video, so apparently you want a way out of that little herd. Okay, so scoot on over to the next bit of fun. Okay. Okay, folks, what we're going to do now is to teach you how to adjust your truss rod. A lot of people are very afraid to do this, and you should not be in the slightest. Okay? Okay, if you have a guitar that has a truss rod cover, you'll have 2 screws in it, probably 2 or 3. Simply remove the screws, get rid of the cover. Okay? There's your cover from the little Gibson SG here. If you have a Fender, I'll show you that in a second, or a Fender style. There's just a couple different styles. Okay, so to adjust this, how do you know what the heck to adjust out? Okay, we're looking at what is called relief in your neck. Okay, if your guitar is laying flat like this on your lap, okay, relief is if your neck is like this, if it's laying like this. So the nut end would be high, and it would be sinking down in the middle, and it would get high again down here towards the pickups. Okay, so that is called relief. Okay, so it's a matter of how much relief you need in your guitar, not how much you want. Okay, and you can go straight with it, so it's perfectly straight, and you can actually pretty much go there, and that's where I prefer them. If you go the opposite way, convex, okay, concave means relief, convex is this way, your guitar will be unplayable. Okay, and I will show you why, because I will adjust this guitar out both ways. Right now it is set proper to where it is almost straight and has a little bit of relief in it, which means it's not straight, it is just barely like this, but just barely. Okay, so if you can look, starting at like the low E string, the way that string hangs off of here, I've got the guitar upside down, of course. The best way to kind of do this is if you were to like fret the first fret, hold it down, then just hold it down somewhere else near the end of the guitar and kind of look at it at the side, you can tell if the guitar neck has a big dip in it or a bunch of relief just by using your string as a straight edge. But you want to push it down on a couple frets, look your first fret, and not necessarily your last, but somewhere down there, so you can tell here in the middle, where it's going to matter the most, what is going to happen here. So if you have a big dip in the middle like this, then you're going to need to straighten that sucker out, because you'll notice when you're playing, I will actually go ahead and make that dip happen, give a lot of relief to it. And what I'm doing is sticking on Gibson guitars, you need to have this special little tool that is just going to attach to this here nut here that is attached to the truss rod, which is a steel rod, goes totally down the whole length of your entire neck, and the rod itself is bent. So when you twist let's say your rod is like this, isn't everybody's? Okay, but you go to twisting that thing, and it just turns the whole thing. The rod does not straighten out. It just actually bends the wood of the neck. Okay, sometimes this could take like 24 hours before the adjustment will totally set in. So turn it a little bit, let it set overnight or a little longer, and see how it comes out, then adjust it a little more. That's very important. Okay? Because you overdo it, you can snap and pop it, but the only way you can overdo it is if you force it with every bit of your might and stand on it and jump it up and down on it. Otherwise, don't be afraid of doing this stuff. Okay, so anyway, that rod is bent, so it's just simply turning around in a hole that's too big for it, but it actually changes the curvature of the actual neck. Okay, so when you bend it to where that big old swoopy part's down and it goes up to the top of the neck, all of a sudden your neck will become this way instead of this way it was before, which is where we're getting ready to go. So if I loosen up this nut, okay, loosen it, I'm just taking it, loosen it, loosen it, loosen it. This gives it relief, so it will now sag in the middle. Okay, so I'll push on it and it will sag down in the middle. Okay, now I'm going to check it, and yep, it's got a big old sag in here. And now the action is very far away from the frets, right here in the middle. And that's what sucks about playing that. See how far you have to push that down? The farther you have to push that string down, the more out of tune your guitar will be, because you're having to push extra far to get down there, and therefore the string is actually going sharper than it needs to be when you push it down. So you need to have this relief thing set right, otherwise your guitar cannot play anywhere close to tune. Okay? So you're doing extra harm when you don't have this set, because your action is too high. Anytime your action is too high, if you push down on it, you're having to go extra far, and your guitar doesn't know that, but your strings know that they're going too far, and it will go sharp on you, big time, and you cannot play in tune, which will totally bum you out. So right now I have a huge amount of relief in this neck. It is shaped like a banana boat. It's like this, right in the middle. Okay, and the action is high. I will play it. I'm going at between the 7th and 9th fret. Here's 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so it's just nothing more than the action is just too high in the middle. But it's fine up here. It's really low up here by the top of the guitar, way up here by the pickups. It's low. And it's low up here at the nut where it's supposed to be, which means the nut is cut right, because it don't take nothing. But it's really high in the middle. So you gotta tighten that sucker up. Okay, how far do you do it? Just, again, just find a couple spots, the 1st fret, and about the 17th, 18th fret. Push down on them, and look at the edge of your guitar, and just start tightening this puppy up. Okay, so I know that I actually went a few, so I'm gonna, usually what they recommend is to turn it about a quarter turn, and check it again, take a look at it, and see how it looks. Okay, so I'm somewhere. Let's take a look. I'm going to look at it. I wish I had such a closer angle for you, but I can describe this just as well as anything. Again, press like at the 1st fret on your low E string. It's the only string you need to check is your low E. And anywhere up here past the 17th, 18th fret. Look at it. My guitar is pretty well straightened out. I see no big... It's got a little bit of relief in it, meaning, again, it's still curved like this, but almost flattened out. Now, if you go too far, you're going to start hearing that. I'm going to go too far. I'm going to get it so it goes the opposite way. I'm going to take it way past it. I'm just tightening it up more. I'm going to screw up the guitar on purpose, just for you. Okay? So now my guitar, the neck, if I pushed on it and looked at it, now that I'm pushing on the 1st fret and about the 17th, the string is actually touching the fret at about the 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. It's just laying across there. So if I try to play, you've had that happen to me. You probably got guitars sitting around that do that. Or maybe you get it even further and all your notes are exactly the same. You'll play this note, and you play it again, it's still going to be the same note. And you keep playing up, and it's the same note over and over. That means you don't have enough relief in your neck, and you need to loosen that truss rod. That's what that means. So when you start farting out, that's what I call it, and you try to bend the note, and it'll just choke. Hear that? Now it won't do nothing because the neck is now concave. It's bowed this way. I could even go more and it would just totally fry. You know, I will go more. Why not? It's just a Gibson. You can replace these. You can tell I'm fond of them. Okay, so I just tightened it a couple more turns. Yeah, you couldn't play lead guitar now if you wanted to. So if you have guitars that do that, you need to loosen up your truss rod. That's all it is. Okay? So if it's farting out, loosen your truss rod. Just go in there, loosen it, loosen it, loosen it, until it quits farting, until it is playable. Let me see where I'm at. It's playable. I'm going to go to the first fret and about the 18th, 19th. Look at it. It is pretty straight. There is no relief in it. So it goes straight down this whole guitar, which isn't a bad thing. If you can get by with it, it's very comfortable to play. Bend it everywhere. I'm still farting out right there. So I need to get it back just a little more. Give it a little more relief, meaning loosen it. So just loosen it another quarter turn. Check with it. See how it sounds. You don't need no little gauges telling you how far the strings have to be off here. You know how to raise and lower your action on your guitar. I'll show you that for those who don't in a little bit. But right now we're just going on the truss rod. Now all the notes are starting to ring really pretty. And the action's not too high. So you just find where all of a sudden you can play lead, bend a note, everywhere. Because you're going to play everywhere when it comes time. And so it don't fart out, and do it everywhere. Okay, so that it don't fart out, and that's all there is to it, folks. It's simply that simple. It's not rocket science. In the morning, this may require just a little adjustment one way or another. If it's farting out again just a little bit, then just loosen it up just a quarter turn. Just one little bit, and it'll probably be fine. And then check it the next morning to make sure. But if you live in a place that's humid, where you actually have seasons where it snows and where you have spring. I don't. I live in the desert, so I never ever have to change mine. I set them once and they're great. But humidity and temperature changes will make you have to adjust that truss rod 4 times a year. With every season, you're going to have to adjust it because humidity and temperature, even from one gig to another, you might be playing in an air conditioning room for 6 months, where it's 70 degrees all the time. Then you go play an outdoor gig where it's 100 degrees outside and a lot of humidity. By the time you take your guitar out and it's been about 2 hours and it's waiting and you're setting up and you go to pick up your guitar, it may be unplayable. It may sound like it did when it was like this and they were all farting out. You'll have to go in there and loosen up that truss rod just for that gig because it will change that fast. But you have to be able to do it. You can't just say, hey, I can't play. Just have your stupid wrench there and get her done. Okay? Now, when you have... Okay, so that's how you do it with a Gibson style guitar. Fender ones are 2 things. They are extremely easy to get to, which is nice if you have the right fenders. Okay, like this one here, you just stick in the proper size Allen wrench in here. Say this was an Allen wrench. And you stick it right in the hole until it fits. Loosen it for more of the relief to get rid of the fart noises, or tighten it, so you don't have that great big huge high action and that big bow in there, like that. So you remember when it was really close at the nut and really close back here by the body, but it was really high up in the air. The action was in the middle. That means you need to tighten that sucker up, straighten it out. But you just stick it in there, same thing, just tighten it up until it gets to where you need it. And then loosen it if you get too far past it and it starts farting out. That's nice to have it right there and you don't have to take off a truss rod cover. Great thing about Fender. And now here's the crappy thing about Fender, is the vintage stupid stuff that everybody keeps praising so much about. Okay, this is Guitarded. Look here. Here's a multi-$1,000 guitar I bought. It cost me a few thou. Jerry Donahue signature. That's just a plug there. There's nothing there. What you do is right down here at the bottom of the neck, you can't even see it. You have to take the neck off. And then there's a big X-shaped, so you can use a huge Phillips or a great big flathead. You have to take the neck off, which means taking, of course, all the bolts off, take the strings off, take everything, guesstimate that adjustment, put it all back on, tighten it all back up, see if you got it right. If you didn't, take it all back off again, do that over and over. That's vintage for you, folks. Do you love it? It is guitarded. Yep, Fender made it right the first time. Bull hockey. You know I want to say other things, but I got to keep this on a PG level anyway as far as eBay is concerned. So, anyway, look at the guitars before you buy them. Make sure that your truss rod is accessible, you know, that you can actually get to the dang thing. So, in my opinion, this is just a, you know, throwaway guitar, especially with 3 saddles. You cannot adjust the harmonics. This guitar will never be in tune, not even close. You can buy compensated saddles, which I'll talk about, but still, it won't get there. But all in the sake of being vintage, oh, by God, you know, stupid right there. That's Guitarded in its finest. But right there, you can see right down in the hole. I know what you're thinking. Me too. Okay, but you put the right Allen wrench, and they're all different depending on if they're made in whatever country they're outsourcing to. And when it comes to Fenders, folks, when it comes to USA and when it comes to Mexico, is there a huge difference in quality right now? Being this in the 2010s right now. I know it's actually later than that, but we are in the teens or the 10s. No, there's not a huge difference. Japanese Fenders are, and always have been, better made guitars. Is that my opinion? No. That's fact. Okay. So just so you know. And the Korean ones are just as good as anything. If they're made in China or Indonesia, they are not as good. They're just usually throwaway guitars, the Chinese guitars and the Indonesian-made guitars. Here's a Korean Fender here. Korea makes some great stuff. They do the Paul Reed Smith SE edition guitars too, which are, I like them better than the American ones myself, personally. I won't own a USA-made Paul Reed Smith, but the SE series from Korea, I will. They're just, I prefer them more. So, on the Paul Reed Smith, I cannot say that is fact. That is my opinion. But on the Fenders, that is fact. That the Japanese are the best made guitars, and the Korean are right in there with the American, and the Mexican ones are all about the same right now. Fender actually had a point when they came back from being closed down for a couple of years when they were changing from the Fullerton, California plant from early 85 when they shut down until 87 when they opened back up. That Japan was the only place making guitars, and they made them killer just to prove a point. But Fender came right back with the Strat Plus, the Tele Plus, the Plus series, and just every bit as good. They really knew they had to come back, and they did a great job. But since then, they've just slipped into the abyss again. And being that the Ensenada, Mexico factory and the Corona factory are like 30 miles apart from each other or something, you know, that's like, they're the same guitars. They're just traveling back and forth across the thing. One has ceramic pickups, one has the Alnico pickups. Not much difference. But anyway, that's the way we do our truss rods. So don't be afraid to do this. Do not pay somebody at a music store to do a truss rod. It is, don't be afraid of it. It's an easy adjustment. And just run that back and look at it. You'll see the little manuals that come with your guitar, and they're confusing and things don't look right. But just use that, loosen it up, and it will give you what is called relief. I know relief is usually, that's relief. Used to be roll aids, now it's that. Told you, hey, this is going to be a funky video. Good thing it's not done in smell-o-vision. But you don't want that much relief because, again, it's going to be too high of action in the middle, and your guitar will be out of tune from having to push the strings down so hard. So get it almost straight. You don't want it perfectly straight, but just a little relief in it. Okay, so not So get it straight, and then right to the point where it starts farting out, and then back it off. You know, a half turn maybe. So get it to where it farts, and then back it off between a quarter and a half turn. Let it set overnight. Play it the next day, and then with what I just told you, you decide which way it needs to go. If it's still farting out, loosen it up just a little bit more, and then you'll be fine. You can go ahead and, if you have a Gibson, then you can put the truss rod cover back on, or any other kind of guitar that has the truss rod cover, and you'll be fine. And again, you can do it on the fly at those type of gigs, like I was talking. You go outside or whatever. You know how to do it. Don't let anybody charge you. They'll charge you $50, $60, $75 for this. Okay? And don't let anybody do that. Don't let anybody ever charge you for any kind of a setup, because I'm going to teach you all of it. For you to pay money for somebody to change your strings or adjust your truss rod or to file this or do that is Guitarded, because I'm going to teach it all to you. Okay? So that is the whole truss rod thing. Again, in case you are just bullheaded and Guitarded, because I'm not allowed to say the other word because it's not PC, do not get one of these vintage things where it's at this end of the neck and you have to take the neck off. That is just stupid to buy a guitar that's done that way. Okay? Unless you really dig that and you live in the desert like I do, and you'll never have to adjust it after you get it done the first time. It'll still be a pain in the butt, for the first 30 minutes that it takes you to do this. After taking the neck off, putting it back on, taking it off, adjusting it, putting it back on, then you can pretty much leave it forever. But if you live in any place else other than the desert, where it's 115 degrees every day of the year, then don't get one of those. Okay? So there's your truss rod lesson. Also, I am always accessible to you guys. Like I said, people will rag on me day in, day out, and send me death threats because of a guitar thing. How grown up is that? But people are out there. Maybe not quite as much as me, but they're out there. So yeah, little things like, you can always email me, write to me, whatever, ask me any questions you want. I'm happy to answer them. I'm just here to help. I'm trying to help. I'm not here to make fun of everything, even though a lot of it deserves to be made fun of. So I'll poke a jab, but I'm here trying to help you, not try to anything else. So there's your truss rod 101. And that's all you need to know about them, nothing else. Okay? If you over tighten them, which you never should, you can break one, yeah. But that would mean putting that big hump in your thing and everything farting out, going, and then deciding you want it to fart some more. And so you tighten it some more. So if you break it, you deserve to do that, because I just showed you how to do it. So if you want more fart in your guitar, you're going to be asking to break your truss rod. Okay? So that be that. Let's do some more fun stuff. Okay, guess what? Yep, we're going to talk about adjusting tremolo on a Strat type of guitar. This is a non-locking tremolo, so all those you have Strats or anything with a whammy bar on it has a tremolo on it. Okay, the reason I picked this particular guitar, this is a Lace Helix guitar. One of the worst guitars out there. The pickups are great. Lace makes, in my opinion, not fact, the best pickups out there. But the guitars are just Guitarded. Number one, in the back, when you take the back plate off, you have to put your strings through somewhere. The back plate they make for these don't have any place for you to run the strings through. You have to take the whole back plate off to put your strings in through your trem block. It's called your tremolo block right there that your strings go to. So how's that for Guitarded? No hole. I'm grabbing one off of Stratocaster over here right now. You know how they have the holes you can put the strings right through? Nope, not on the Lace guitars. So avoid those guitars at all cost. Yeah, if you want to sue me. Anyway, it's just slander. I ain't gonna get that long in jail. Okay, here's the deal. The reason I chose this one, this guitar came to me in a trade, and it was set up with 8-gauge strings on it. Okay? So you're looking like 8 through 38, I think was the gauge. now that I have just strung it up with 9-gauge strings, see how that tremolo is setting way up there? Can you see that? I'll back that ass on up this way. Okay, so now you can see, if your guitar looks like that, and your tremolo is like way off the top of the body of the guitar. Okay, I'll try to get this angle too. But see how high that thing is bent way up there? I mean, that should not be there. This thing should be like way down here. Okay, I just went ahead and popped a string just by doing that, by pulling it back so far. Okay, so anyway, that is not supposed to be way down like that. Okay, so we are going to fix this, and since I popped a string, I will show you another little fun thing at the same time. Okay, so number one, no matter what anybody has ever told you in life, let me grab just a couple things out of my little box here, and this is it. Okay, I'm just going to put the one string on and we'll leave the rest the way they are. Let's see, I'll grab my trusty elixirs, which are the only strings in the world that do not crap out on you and sound like junk. I will mention these later because if you have problems with acidity in your sweat, like I do, where a set of strings cannot last you, 10 seconds without them going dead, the elixir strings are the only way to go. While I'm here, I want to show you one of the stupidest things, but when you go to change strings on a guitar, no matter what anybody has ever told you in the past, let's see if that ball end fell out, you should never, ever tie your strings on to the end of your guitar, to the top of the tuning machines. So don't tie them on or bend them at a quarter angle or do any of that weird nonsense. It's not needed, and it will prevent you from doing a quicker string change later. So all that nonsense is BS. So just simply stick your string into wherever the heck it has to go. Which would not be that one. It would be in probably the proper slot. Okay, so just cram your string in. I'll take you through this just for fun. And we are at the top of the string. Just run it through the tuner. Leave it enough room to wrap around, probably 3 times is plenty, but always go down underneath. So don't ever let the string overlap. Okay, ever. Just go down the peg. Can I zoom in? Well, by golly, I guess that's what the zoom's for. Let's see how close it'll go. Oh, about there is good. So I'm just going straight down. Do not tie it on. Do not bend it. None of that garbage. It is all BS, and it hinders you from making a proper, quick string change later. All that other junk does not help it stay in tune. Does not help it anything. Okay? So you put the flipping string on, wrap it around here a few times, straight down. Okay, so the windings do not cross each other. Ever, 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 ever. Tune it up and you're on your way. Okay? And for God's sakes, snip the crap off. Don't let it hang on the edge of your guitar. You look like a fool with that thing hanging there. Okay? How do you stretch a string while we're here? Well, let's put it in the old tuner and back this thing back up. Here we go. I'm going to turn on the tuner. Okay, is high E string. Okay, I'm basically in tune. On your 3 strings, like your E, B, and G that are not wound, just bend them up. Tune it again. Bend them up 4 or 5 times. Tune it again. Do it again until it quits going out of tune, which only takes about 4 times of doing this. And then you are done. You'll never have to stretch your strings again. People say, oh, it takes a day or two. No, it don't. It takes 5 minutes for me to change a whole set of strings and for them to be totally stretched out. Okay, that string is stretched completely, 100%. We're done. Okay, so that is it. When it comes to low strings, just grab them, tug them, pull them like this. It's fine. So you just tug them up like that on your wound strings, give them a little tug, and then tune it. And then after 3 or 4 times, you are done and you are forever in tune. Okay, so now that we are back, that's how you change a flipping string. Any other way is plain and simple wrong. Okay, because you don't need it, and it gets in the way. Every time I get a guitar in that has the strings on it, that other way or any other way, it just shows how stupid the person I bought it off of is. Okay, so now we have our trem that is way up there. Reason being, like I said, we went from 8-gauge strings to 9-gauge strings. This has more tension on it, so it brought the whole whammy way up there. So we want to bring the whole thing down. How do we do that? Okay, well, what we get to do first is actually loosen up the strings just a little bit from pitch. Just a couple turns. Okay, so now what we're going to do is go in the back, and you see where you have the little attachment here. Hey, focus. Okay, this plate has these 2 screws. All you do, grab your Phillips, start tightening that dude till it starts going into the body. Tighten it, tighten it, tighten it, tighten it, tighten it, tighten it, tighten it. And when people say they're setting up their tremolo for a whole different gauge of strings, this is all it is. There's no more to it. They try to make it sound like rocket science, and you're paying some guy $80 with a stupid Guitar Center. Don't ever shop there, by the way, to do that. Duh. Okay. So, guess what? Let's look here. Okay, of course we are not tuned back, so we'll have to find out. That thing is down there where it's supposed to be, you know. So now you have some room to mess with. Okay, I'm looking at it thinking, okay, the strings aren't tight. I'll go ahead and tighten up some strings. It's going to pull up a little bit. I'm going to tighten it up just a little bit more, just to make sure. Tighten it, tighten it, tighten it. The reason I loosen the strings is because now this whammy's pulling way back, so it's actually going to tighten the strings on its own while we're doing this. Okay, so I'm getting there. If you want to, instead of blocking, putting a block in here, if you ever want to go to something where you're not using a whammy bar, just screw this in all the way, and that will lay right against the body of the guitar and it will not ever go anywhere. Okay, and you can just take the whammy down, throw it down, blah blah blah, you're done. But if you actually want to use the whammy and have it still floating, leave some room. But if you screw this in all the way, you can play all you want and take the whammy out and it will have no effect on your guitar. And it will be like having a hardtail, and actually add a little sustain because your bridge will come in contact with the body of your guitar. Okay? Extra little hint there. Okay, so let's tune the guitar back to pitch and just take a look at the bridge. Okay? So I got my lovely little tuner on my lap. You don't have to see the thing. You've got a guitar tuner. If you don't, by golly, go get one. Okay, it is really high, so I didn't even actually loosen them enough. So it's actually going to pull back more than I even thought. So these things are tuned really high. Like I said, I loosened them up, but I should have loosened them just a little more. Okay, so now I can just stretch them. Every time you change your string tuning, you have to stretch them again, just like if they were brand new. And of course, with a floating tremolo, every single time you make an adjustment to any string, it will throw every other string out of tune. Okay? It's just the way it is. If you tighten one string, all the other ones will go flat. Okay? Pure, simple, plain fact of life. So I'm still tuning B, G, and almost there because this is what I do, and I do it very fast. Okay. So I'm actually, from all that mess, I tune that quick. So I'm telling you, your string changes can get to 5 minutes from beginning to end to being totally stretched out. Okay. But I'm gonna get a string cleaning rag because I can't stand to have my guitars being dirty. And hey, I can waste 30 seconds of tape time. I'm teasing. But okay. So now let's take a look at that puppy. It's right down there where it's going to look good. It will still go up and it'll go down. Okay. So we have simply done that. And you just adjust it to where you like the whole bridge to be setting at. Okay. So if you want it to ride down a little more back up in the air, just loosen the springs back up again, back here, and tune it. Okay. That's all there is to it. There's no more than that to adjusting a whammy. So again, this came with 8-gauge strings on it. I put 9s on it, so the tension was a little higher. So I just tightened this in, and it brought that back down to where it needed to be. That's all there is to it. No more. That's it. Somebody would have charged you $75-80 for that at a music store. That's it. Will it stay in tune? It'll do as best it can without a locking nut. So in a situation where you do not have a locking nut on your guitar, okay, let's get you right in here, and I'm going to show you something fun here in a second. Okay, there we go. Ain't that pretty? Okay. Okay. Where it doesn't have a lock nut, you can use it ever so slightly. Let's get it on the guitar itself and on the whammy. Okay. So you've got a little bit of play you can do. And you'll be alright. Usually like the low E will go out of tune sharp, as will the G string. That's usually just the way it always happens on guitars like these. Okay, where they don't have a locking nut. So what you do is just bend the G string up once and tug on the low E string once, and you're going to be in tune after any whammy use. Okay, so that's all there is to setting it up. It's just a matter of screwing those 2 screws in till you get the bar or the bridge at the angle you want it. But you don't want it setting way up like that was, way up in the air like this. So I've seen so many guitars come through here where they're like that. It's like, man, it just takes 2 seconds, 5 minutes actually, like what I just showed you, and you're good to go. Okay, now I'm going to show you one other little trick. I'll put this aside. I'm going to grab my trusty old little Strat that I've used for 20 some odd years as my main guitar. See, it's all torn up. If you ever want to make it a hardtail where there's to shut it the heck up, here is a great point. I have screwed this in all the way with those 2 screws. I have put 5 springs in here. See what that is? That right there, my friends, is toilet paper. That's toilet paper all in between the springs too. But I went ahead and tightened that sucker way in there, and I put 5 springs in there. And you see all that toilet paper? That is to shut these springs up. I even stuck it in here, and then I stick this one over top of it. Because the springs in the back of here make tons of noise, and they ring up through your strings, through the block here, this big block. It's got a nice big one compared to that other piece of junk where it had the little skinny block. So this actually gives you more sustain with having the thicker block that the springs strings are attached to. So if you want to keep all this spring noise that you will actually hear amplified through your amplifier, you hit it like any chord and hit bing and try to stop it, you'll hear the springs still rattling, kind of like if you shake an amp that has a spring reverb, but you actually hear that coming through your amplifier if you don't do this. So if you don't want to use the whammy on your guitar, go ahead and don't just take the bar off, disable the whole thing by putting like a bunch of springs on it, screw it in as far as you can so the bridge is laying against the body. This thing is dead on the body and it's not going anywhere. If I was to use this it ain't going anywhere. It's just on here so I won't lose the bar. Okay, so, and then put these between, toilet paper in between the springs, around the springs, anywhere on top of it. Then just cram the back on, and you are silent as a mouse. But you get this guy back where the springs are still there. You'll still hear that noise. If we wanted to tighten down that whole whammy all the way, you would still hear this noise coming through. Okay, so that would actually be amplified through your amplifier. Not a good thing. So I'm probably one of the only few out there that do that, so that is a trick of mine. Please use it. Put more springs on your whammy than this anyway. Like I said, this is a lace guitar. I don't recommend it, but that's how you adjust. Put a couple more springs in there, just to have a little more control over everything. But that's how you do it. Just those 2 screws until your bridge is in the position you want it in. That's all there is to it. So quit paying people to do it. Just do it yourself. Okay? So that's enough about that. Let's get on to some more stuff. We got so much to cover. And this is the way we wash our clothes. And there you be. And again, on the string change, do that with every string. Don't ever let a string cross over top of another string. Just wind them straight down. See these? Like here? Just straight down. There's not a certain amount of wraps, but just 3 or 4 wraps down is all you need. Okay? If you cross over them, if you tie them on and all that kind of junk, you're guitarded if you're doing that. Whoever told you, shoot them. It's wrong. This is all you need. You don't need to lock them in any way, shape, or form. They're not going to fall off. This is as good as any and as easy as pie. So get her done. Okay? On to the next fun stuff. Okay, it's time to actually set the intonation on your guitar. That meaning so that it will play in tune all the way up and down the neck, or as close as it can. It is impossible to get it right, except for the new tempered guitar necks that are out that you'll hear about at some point. But with the guitars that are available today, what you will notice when they are set correctly is starting from the high E string, you will get 2 sets of what I like to call stair steps. High E string, here's your B, here's your G. Your high E string will be closest to your pickups. Then your B will be backwards a little bit, and then your G will be backwards even more. So it actually looks like a stair step. So forward all the way here on the high E, back a little bit on the B, back a little bit on the G. Then the next 3 strings, your D, A, and E, they do the same thing. So your D is forward, your A is back, your low E is back this way again. So you bring it all pan out a little bit, and you have 2 sets of what I call stair steps. So bing, back, back. And you go forward again, back, and back again. So you can tell when a guitar by looking at it, if it's even intonated. So if you're looking at a guitar, like say on eBay or even at a music store, you can tell if anybody has even messed with their guitar to even have it right just by looking at the bridge. See if they've even taken care of it. Okay, of course I threw this one out. What is wrong in this picture? Well, let's take a good close look. Here is my high E string. Here's my B. Oops, my high E string is behind my B. It should not. It should be past it. And then stair step down even more. And then go forward, back, and back. These are all set. See, they are right because I've already set them. I set this one out on purpose to show you what is what and which way to turn what screw. So this is on a Stratocaster. So on any guitar, it will work out this way. Okay, so let's set the intonation on one string, and it will be this way on every guitar and on every string. So all we have to do is just do it once, and so you'll never have to pay a living soul to do this for you again. Okay, here I will have my little tuner, and I will show you what's what. I am actually in tune. Okay, I'll put the tuner towards you, And let's put something under there so we can see what's going on. Let's tilt that puppy up a little bit. Okay, so here's the tuner on screen. It will go. Let's tune it right up to pitch on the high E string. And we are dead on right there. Then you go to the 12th fret on the guitar. Okay, and I'll go out and show you how I'm just pushing down on the 12th fret. You don't bend it, don't push extra hard, just push down on the 12th fret on the same string, and you want that to be in tune also according to the tuner. Let's see where we're at. You already know that I have thrown it out, so where is it? Which direction has it gone? What have I done? So I'm pushing. There's your open E. It is, okay, let's get it in tune. Here's a little kink. That's because you have a plastic or a bone nut. If you had a roller nut, it would not do that. Okay, simple as that. Case proven. I'm going up to the 12th fret on the high E string now. It is flat, meaning it is below pitch. Okay, so we have to make an adjustment on the guitar to get that in tune with the rest of it. Okay, we have to do this on every string. Okay, so how do we do this? Which way does it go? So if it is showing up flat on your tuner when you're pressing at the 12th fret, you actually have to get this saddle and move it this way. Okay, so with the stair step thing in mind, okay, remember your high E string goes furthest this way, then the B back, then the G back, then the D forward, A back, E back. Okay, so I already know that I'm going to have to move this high E string forward because it's not even past the B string. Okay, so I am loosening it, loosening it, loosening it, loosening it until it at least passes the other saddle. That's what these are called in case you don't know. The other saddle. Let's get on up in there. I have to be my own camera guy. That groovy. Okay, so there we go. I have moved it to here, so it is past the B one. Okay, so let's fire this puppy back down. We'll go down the tuner, see where in the holy Jesus we are at. Okay, so I'm gonna go to put it in focus. You have to tune it back up each time too, though. Every adjustment you make back there, you have to tune it again. So I'm tuning the open E string. You don't have to worry about stretching it yet. Every time you do something like that, though, you have to get the stretch out again. It's like putting a new string on. But while doing this, we're in tune. Let's check the 12th fret now. Okay. It is actually just a slight bit sharp now. You have to check and see if it's because you're bending the string up or if you're pushing too hard. But I'm playing soft, but it's a little bit sharp. So I actually overcorrected myself. I will go back to the guitar and bring the saddle back this way because I brought it a little too far. So I will tighten it up just a couple of turns, but I still have my staircase going on. Okay, here's my high E, and the B is still behind it, so it has dropped behind. So everything is still visually fine. And that is the best thing to do, is that staircase thing, because it always holds true. There's not an instance where it won't. Now we have to tune to open again. Okay, I have tuned, or since I moved that saddle, it is actually sharp, so I'm going to flatten the string and get it right back in tune there. Okay, I am going to bend it a little bit, get some of that stretch out. Just sit there, and it's tedious, but you have to do this with every string. And make sure the whole guitar is in tune each time you do it. Every time you get past with a string, make sure everything is in tune, and then just only screw with one string at a time. Now I'm going to the 12th fret, and we are dead on, kiddies. And you just do that to every single string on the guitar. So it's just that quick and simple. Okay, so that, don't pay anybody to do that. Then just go to the next string and do it again. You go to the open B, 12th fret, and I'm reading it here. I'll go tune it up and check it on here. I'm dead on because I've said it before, but I just put the 1 out to show you. But you do that to every single string. Do not push too hard. Do not bend the string when you're checking it. Make sure you're just playing it, you know, nice and easy, and just like when you're tuning a guitar. And that will be as close as you can actually come. Now, the guitar that cannot do it, and again, these people yell and gripe, but the only reason they should be yelling and griping at all, and I'll put this guitar out of the way for safety's sake, because I get wound up when I talk about these guitars, and that is the Telecaster. Of course, they make them some with 6 saddles, but we're back to this guy again. See that? Okay, this guitar cannot ever be in tune because it only has those 3 saddles. You cannot make that staircase. It's here, it is even. What some people will actually do, people, okay, your Guitarded people, they will take something like this because it drives them so nuts that it's out of tune. Why'd you buy this anyway? They take a pair of needle nose or whatever, and they will bend that screw so that it will actually turn this so that the high E string is closer this way on the saddle, because that's just one piece of brass there, and they'll bend it, and they'll bend this one to try to make it right, and bend this one, and they live with it. It's like, why did you make the wrong choice to begin with? Because they think this is the guitar to play. It's a fine guitar, but it needs a new bridge. Okay, they make replacement saddles for these. Okay, again, the saddles being these guys. Calaham, C-A-L-A-H-A-M, as in ham and bacon and eggs, make what are called compensated bridges, and so that's compensating for fender screw up is what it is. And they are aftermarket ones where part of it is actually cut out. Part of the bridge or saddles are actually cut out so that it will set the B string back this way. It just cuts off part of this and makes it so it's back here. It won't be adjustable, just the whole thing will still have to go back and forth, so you have to get a happy medium so that both strings are out of tune, just not as out of tune as they would be like this. Same here, this one needs to go way back, but the D string needs to go way forward of this one, but it's not going to, because it's a stupid design. And everybody will yell at me, and they always have, and they're like, well, he made all this money to make it. It's like, I would have made it right. Okay. After all these decades, you can make the stupid guitar right, but the Guitarded people out there, they will fight it tooth and nail till their death, and their death can't come soon enough as far as I'm concerned. So maybe that smarter people will come along and get the ones that have the 6 saddles. So you can always switch the bridge out on a Telecaster. But if you're one that has to have this vintage thing going on, plan on being out of tune all the time, because that is the law of physics, and that's the law of setting your intonation. With a Telecaster bridge with 3 saddles like this, 3 barrel saddles, that's what they're called, or barrel saddles, stock from Fender, you will be out of tune all the time. Period. End of story. No negotiating that fact. It's just the way it is. Okay, so there are aftermarket parts, or you can just replace the whole flipping bridge, get 6 saddles, and be as in tune as any other guitar can be. Okay? So that is how you take care of your intonation. Do not pay anybody to do that. Just do it on each string. On the Teles, you just have to go for a happy medium, and that's all you can do. You can get one string right, but the other one's going to be way off. So you have to find a medium in between the two when doing a Telecaster that both of them are off just the same amount. So that one's wrong and that one's wrong, but they're the same amount. Because if you get one dead right, the other one's going to be really wrong. Okay? So you have to split the difference and settle for it. Okay? So how much sense does that make to you to have that? Hopefully not too much. But again, like I said, people will fight tooth and nail to defend that Guitarded setup. So for any of you who are just learning how to do this and you want to avoid major tuning problems and stupidity as such, avoid that kind of a bridge on a Telecaster. They make other ones that are already on there. So you have choices. So there you go, kiddies. And that's all I got to say about that. Okay, kitties, my beautiful face is back. No, I haven't done anything with my hair. I want to talk to you about the action on your bridge. Okay, very simple to do. On Fender style guitars, they will always have two little Allen wrench holes so you can adjust each individual string height, unless it's a Telecaster. A lot of Telecasters will only have 3 saddles, so you kind of deal with that. But you just put the Allen wrench in this hole. Like say, here's your first one on your low E string. You got to do both sides, so you can make it tilt one way or the other. I don't know why, but this is just the only way to do it. You put your little Allen wrench right in the hole, and you raise it up if you want it to be higher off of the neck. Okay, so you loosen it, and then you loosen the other side, and they will actually, you crank them up. Tighten them up and tighten it up, and these will rise up in the air, and so forth. Just get them to where they feel really good. It's all a preference. If you like your action high, don't forget, the harder you have to push down on your strings, the sharper your strings are actually going to go, so you will be out of tune. Okay, so that's just a given. If you like your action really high and hard to play, it's going to sound out of tune because you actually have to press the string further down to make things happen. Okay, so anyway, so that's how you get your action back there. You just simply put your little Allen wrench in there. Okay, let's get it the right way, and I'll look at it. You stick it in. If you want it to go higher, you loosen it. If you want to go lower, you tighten it. Okay, that's the way it goes. All Fender Stratocasters and anything with 6 saddles, these are saddles, giddy up, cowboy, will be this way, and you can adjust each string exactly the way you want it. Can you do that on a typical Telecaster with 3 saddles? No. You can do 2 strings at a time. It's not a great setup, but people like their Telecasters the way they are for some weird reason, because they cannot get in tune and because you cannot fully adjust it, but they still like them. Why? It is beyond me, but who am I to say? If you like what you like, then so be it. But here are your choices. So there is that. Okay, so that's how you would do it on a conventional Fender type of bridge. Now, when you get to the Gibson bridges, or the Gibson type bridges, whole different ball game, kiddies. Okay, you don't get the luxury of much of anything. Okay, this is the Gibson Tune-O-Matic bridge. Okay, you get to adjust your intonation. We went over that by the screws that are back here. Now, guess what? If you have the screws on this side of your Gibson type bridge, you have your bridge on backwards. Thing about Gibson bridges and everything, and their tailpieces, when you take all the strings off to clean your guitar, everything falls off your guitar. People say, well, just leave one string on, that'll kind of keep it on, or whatever. It's like, why? You have to clean the fretboard, so you have to get in there and clean that whole mess. No, just try not to screw everything up. Take it off, set it down so you have everything the right way, and try not to nudge anything. This is actually a horrible setup back here, but people refuse to change because they're stuck in their ways. Like I said, there are aftermarket parts that will not fall off of your guitar, that have set screws in them and so forth, that will keep them right there on your guitar when you take your strings off, which is the way it should be. Okay? Why it's not is because of people who are just unwilling to change. Okay, now as far as adjusting the height on a Gibson, you cannot adjust how high you want each string to go, which sucks. I like different strings at different heights. If only one string is giving me a buzz and I need to raise that one string, I can't do it on a Gibson style guitar because they won't let you. Again, you can buy the aftermarket part or the replacement parts that will let you do it. But as they are, all you have is this little wheel here, and you turn it, loosen it to make it go up, and make that whole side go up. So 3 of your strings, well, they're actually all going to go up to some degree. And the same thing up here on the bass side. Just loosen it and your whole action will go up. So you just, very minimal way to do it. And does it always work out? No. Because you finally get the buzz out of that one string that was giving you trouble, and now the rest of your action feels like really, really high, and it sucks. So if it does bother you, simply go out and buy the replacement parts. Okay? You don't have to live with what you have. Okay? Make it work for you. Don't take anybody else's version of what has to be. A guitar does not have to stay original. Make it yours. Is there ever going to be a signature model with your name on it? Possibly, but only if you do something to change it, and plus when you become famous. Otherwise, if you don't change the guitar at all, okay, put it this way. Dimebag Darrell, if you guys know who he was, until somebody went and blew his flipping head off, morons. People are still, like Washburn and Dean both, are still putting out signature guitars by him. Every year there's a new one, and Dimebag authorized it. Bull crap. They're just stealing money from his name, and it happens to everybody. There's a lot of dead people. Even Les Paul, they're putting out new Les Paul models with his name and making money off his name, and he authorized this back when. No, he didn't. Okay, anyway, the Gibson Tune-o-matic system is a horrible, horrible system, in my opinion. Other people love it and like it. If you love it and like it, leave it alone. Okay? If it sucks for you like it does for me, go change it. Why don't I change it? Because I don't keep these guitars to play. I keep them because I am a musician, and musicians do not get a retirement plan. So I collect hundreds of guitars that I know will go up in value. And when I hit 60, I'm going to sell everything except for a couple, 2 or 3. And so I'll sell a few hundred guitars, and I'm going to live till I die, if I even make it to 60. If not, my wife, she's fully healthy, and she'll enjoy the money, and she can use it after she buries my butt. But anyway, so it's a lot more difficult on a guitar like this to get the action the way you want it. But that is where you adjust it at. Okay? Does it make a difference? Some people on these stop bar tailpieces, they like to wrap the strings, put the strings in through here, then wrap it around the bridge, and then come over this. Whatever floats your boat. It's not meant to do that, but if you want to do it, do it. It puts less of a break angle, again, as they say, over the bridge, which some people think adds sustain, which it really doesn't. So they like it to just go over the top of here and then do this. Other people think it really makes a big deal if that whole tailpiece is slammed all the way down and touching the body, somehow that this whole piece is being resonated, and it hits the body, and then it resonates the whole body, and you get more sustain. No. As soon as it hits this bridge, that pretty much kills 90% at least of the vibrations of your strings. So you're not getting much back here. And this is plenty of transference with these huge bolts back here. So you don't need this whole thing to be on the top of the guitar. So it's just a kind of a funky system. If you like it, cool. If not, fine. That's why I'm here, just to show you the differences. Not to say this one is better than the other. I say that the Fender type is better than this because you have 100% control over everything that you could want to adjust. If you don't want control over everything and you like this, then more power to you. And if that's what you like, get it. Okay? That's the way it is with everything. If you like it that way, by all means, just play it. That's what it's all about. Just play it. Get it to where it plays good, to where it feels good for you. If you like the action way up there, put it way up there. If you like it way down low, put it as low as it can go before it starts to buzz, and then adjust the relief on your guitar and make it even lower. If you want it to play like, just blow on it like a feather and it plays itself, you can make it that way if you just listen to everything I'm teaching you about the setup. Okay, so that's the difference in bridges and what I have to say about them. Okay, so there you go. Okay, folks, now we're going to talk about, I know I've got a lovely halo over my head. It is daylight now. Yes, I'm still wearing the same clothes. We're going to talk about guitar pickups and all the different kinds that there are. Of course, I cannot go through all 1,000 of them. I'm going through like 5 basic ones. I'm going to give you some information so you know what to look for those of you who are just starting out, or just to refresh some of you on how cool certain things are and how bad certain things are that you may be unaware of. Whenever you see me licking my fingers, no, it's not because I got something yummy on there, unfortunately. It's because it makes my pick stick to me. Otherwise, I have really dry hands and my pick flies away. So that's not a tick. It's just me trying to keep my pick here. Okay, I'm just going to put this right down. I'm going to demonstrate by a few different guitars here and show you what's what. Okay, right here we have probably the best unknown secret in the world. This is a 1984 Ibanez Roadstar 2. Okay, probably one of the best. If you are out there playing a Mexican Strat or even an American Strat or anything, if you're paying more than $250 for a guitar that you're taking to the gig, and if it's a bar gig, then you should be shot, because these sound better, play better, are better, and they're built better. They're still made in Japan. They haven't been outsourced yet like everything else. These just smoke pretty much everything out there. They're amazing guitars, and you do not have the pull pieces here to, bang your finger or hands into to make all that kunk, kunk, kunk sound against the pull pieces. Just great guitars, okay? So these are what are known as Strat killers, okay? Yet they sound better than, I think I've got 40 Strats. This sounds better than 38 of them. Guarantee it. And I got a few of these now. So anyway, so these are just straight single coil pickups. The reason I chose this is because it has a coil tap, okay, which is this switch here. Not to be confused with coil splitting. So that's why this guitar is being shown right now, is to show you what a coil tap sounds like versus coil splitting, which we will come to. I'd mentioned earlier, Gibson says that their Les Paul Traditional Pros, and any guitar that Gibson has that has push-pull knobs that actually takes a humbucker and splits it into a single coil, that is actually called coil splitting. But Gibson, in their infinite wisdom, calls it a coil tap, which it is not. Everybody interchanges these, and they are not even close to the same thing. Okay, so I'll show you the difference, and you'll know what to look for and see if you like this or not. But do not believe what you read, okay? Because, like I said, Gibson, and every article they have, will say that they have coil taps, and they don't. They have coil splits. Okay, so here is, and also due to a major request, I have shut off every single effect in the world. We're going straight into my Johnson Millennium JM 150. It is half solid state, half digital, half tube. Yep, it's 1.5 amps. It beats every amp out there. I've sold the Marshalls, I've sold the Fender Twins, I've sold every tube amp I've had, I've sold every solid state, and this is all three put into one, and it kills. Line 6, don't even think about it. I'll talk about amps in a little bit, but everybody that owns any other kind of amp ever made wants to know where they can get one of these, and you can ask me later. Okay, here we are, straight guitar. I'm in the 2 position, meaning bridge and middle pickup. So no reverb, no nothing. So that is what is called quack. A Strat is famous for its 5-way switch and its quack. Okay, so we are there with those 2 pickups on. If I was in the bridge, that is what is called twang. You would actually add something like a little bit of delay. Okay. Okay, so that is what you get there. So if you go to the 4 position, which is the neck and the middle, you get more quack. Or some funk. Okay, so that is that. Here is the coil tap. Okay? This is actually tapping, or the wiring actually goes into the pickups and actually grabs a certain part of the pickup and is giving you an extreme focus on a certain part of the pickup. Okay? So, and it is not useful as far as I'm concerned. Funk bands used to love it back in the 70s and 80s when funk was cool. To me, that is unuseful. That is a coil tap. Okay? Back to normal. Now coil tap. So it sounds like a radio or a megaphone. So that is a coil tap. That's what Gibson is spending all their ad money saying that they're putting on their guitars. Would you want that? I don't think so. Okay, so that is a coil tap. Why would you want it? You wouldn't. Okay, so let's move on to another guitar. I'm just showing different types of pickups. I'm not going to tell you, this is a BR549 pickup, this is a whatever pickup. I'm just going to show you the different kinds as far as single coils, stuff with coil splitting, P90 pickups, which are next, humbuckers that have coil splitting on them. Okay, here's a Fender TC90, which is actually Korean and a great guitar for like blues stuff, but I'm going to play everything right now with no effects, no distortion, no nothing, just to show you what each pickup actually sounds like before you put a bunch of effects on it. Okay, so these are stock Seymour Duncan P90 pickups. You've heard about them. They are a single coil. These are the type pickups that actually came on Gibson Les Pauls when Gibsons were first made. So you know, look at 1952 through 1957 or something like that. They were always these. Les Pauls were not made with humbuckers. They just were not made that way until like 58 and 59. And that's the big money guitars that everybody wants. But even Les Paul himself did not play humbuckers most of the time. He played his single coils on his Les Pauls until the day he died. That was his preference. Okay, so it was basically, these are what initially came out in Les Pauls in the early days. So here's Seymour Duncan's version of them. Again, just straight, both pickups on. Everything on all these guitars is going to be on 10. Okay? So they are a lot hotter of a pickup, and they have a little bit of natural crunch. These things are meant for blues more than anything. If I say meant for, I should say they are known for. Okay, so they are not meant for blues, they are known for blues or jazz. I will go to the neck pickup. Okay. Neck pickup. Here's the bridge. Okay. So they're just a hot single coil, but they have more low end and more mids in them than do a, Fender type of guitar. So that is a look into what a P90 pickup is. So you've always read about them. That is what they are. They're just, you can hear the difference. Okay, we're going to go to straight old humbuckers. This is a 1990, the very first year of the Gibson Explorer 1976 reissue. Okay, so this has just your typical, Gibson pickups that were actually even used back in 76. So these are straight humbuckers, everything on 10. on the guitar. Everything wide open, and both pickups. So definite tone difference there. You're looking at a lot more lows, a lot more mids, and this is what a lot of people tend to call warm sounding. Okay? Basically, when people tell me something sounds warm, what it means to me is basically putting pillows or a blanket over top of your amplifier and cutting your tone all the way out. That's most people's description of warm, actually, if you get to the bottom of it. But they are not as articulate sounding, they're not as clear, they are not as high-endy as a single coil, of course. These are, people think an Explorer is a rock guitar. No, it was made in 1958, okay? So, that's when these things came out, so they were not meant for that. They were made in 58. They were just meant to look like the cars at the time, the Cadillac, the tail fins, and the 57 Chevy. Okay? So you had these 58 and 59, and they were gone until 76. So they made them for the 2 years, same as the Flying V. The Flying V came back back in 67 again. But this is those pickups. So these will lend themselves extremely to distortion. It's not going to sound metal because these are not like your EMG active, 81s and 85s, which will be hotter than all get out and will overdrive the beginning stages of your amplifier, which will give you distorted sounds only. You cannot clean them up, okay? I want to show you one thing real quick. People talk about, while I got this on, guitar volumes. They actually take your tone and destroy it. Here's your tone now. You have some decent high end and stuff in there. I'm going to back the volume down a little bit. It didn't just lower the volume; it cut my high end away. I lost it. So my tone has gone to crap. These are not just volume knobs. They change your tone too on every guitar. It's just the way it is. You can buy, like 500K pots or 250K pots, depending on whether it's a Gibson or Fender or what, that will solve that. But all the guitars come stock with these nasty pots in it. So what I end up using for everything, right there, kitties, the Morley volume pedal. Okay? So, reason being, because it actually has an LED type of deal in it and a solar collector, and there's no actual pot in it. You need some pot, man? Hey, man, it's me, Dave. Open up, I got the stuff. Dave's not here. Rent some Cheech and Chong, you'll see where I'm at. So if you were to get a volume pedal with a volume pot in it, like every volume pedal is made, then you're defeating the purpose. So the Morley active one with the LED thing is the only one that will not destroy your tone and keeps your tone exactly the same. Okay, so ask me about that later if you want. Okay, so don't use these on your guitar if you have to. I know a lot of you, that's your whole thing, but just know that it destroys your tone at the same time as it takes your volume down. People are like, yeah, but I have my tube amp and I want to just kind of back that off and it cleans it up real nice. I know you're used to that. A lot of people are, and that is fine. Whatever works for you. But just so you'll know, it does not just affect your volume. It affects your tone also. Okay? So that is a humbucker. It's bold, in your face, and not pretty. Okay, so it's not meant to be a pretty sound. Okay, that's not what it's designed for. The next guitar is designed for that. Okay, I'm going to whip out what is, in my opinion, I tell you when it's fact and when it's my opinion. In my opinion, a much better guitar than a Fender Telecaster or a Fender Stratocaster, and that would be where Fender went with him and George Fullerton, which started G&L. Okay, so after Fender sold off, they went out here. We got the G&L ASAT, As you see, it's got the 3 single coils, and it's going to have the 5-way switching, just like a Strat. Okay, so, but they sound better, they play better, they feel better to me. If they don't to you, then don't get one. Okay, but I'm just showing you the sounds of the pickups. These are just standard G&L pickups, but of course, George Fullerton and Leo together, of course, how are you going to miss with the pickups? Okay, right now I've got, let's go up to the 2 position, so the middle and the neck. Okay, or sorry, the middle and the bridge. I do that all the time. That's just where you get that signature sound. Okay, so again, we have quack. Okay, if we go to the bridge. Okay, great sounding. Middle. You'll never hear a guitar sound that great on a middle pickup that has 3 single coils. It does on this. Here we go in these 2 positions. Okay, so your neck and your middle, like I said before, or your 4 position on your 5-way switch. What I meant by these sound pretty. Okay, there's a pretty sounding thing. Go to the neck. So single coils are very, it's just usually one or the other, a humbucker or a single coil. But if you have 3, you get that stratty sound. If you want a telly sound, you get just two pickups. But you get something like this, and you can have all the sounds and wire it so just these 2 are on like a regular telly, and have all your Strat pickups. I don't know why people that play tellies only want Telecasters with 2 pickups on, because when they can have a 3rd one there, but they do, and it's all a matter of choice. It's your choice. I'm just showing you what different kinds of pickups sound like. Okay, so those are single coils when you have 3 of them in different ways that they sound. So those are the pretty ones. Now here comes Gibson's mistake, but it is my favorite Les Paul. I'm not a huge fan of Les Pauls, but they have made dozens and dozens and dozens of Les Pauls, and I've got some in there that have 3 single coil pickups in them, and they were made that way, and they sound like a Strat, and I love them. And I've got so many Gibson guitars that are 3 single coils, just like a Strat, okay? But anyway, beyond that, these are the ones that they're advertising. This is the Gibson Les Paul Traditional Pro, okay? And this is the one that has the push-pull buttons, or knobs, that they say are coil tapping. They are not. They are coil splitting. So it shuts off one half of these humbuckers and makes it into a pseudo single coil. By what I mean by that is it wants to sound like a single coil, but it doesn't. And the humbucker does not sound like a humbucker either. They both have elements of each other, because once you introduce that circuitry into the circuitry of the guitar, they have what is called bleed over. So right now these pickups in full humbucking mode, everything up, everything in the middle, this does not sound anything like that Explorer over there, even though they're made out of the same thing. This is prettier, and you could tell it has elements of that single coil, even though they are not split yet. These are not coil taps, as Gibson advertises. Last time I'll say it, but these are coil splits, and they're not even engaged yet. They're dating, they're not engaged. I will pull and split the bridge pickup. Now, put it back to humbucker. Pulled it out. gets fatter, I'm going to pull the bridge one out, the neck one out now. Put it back in. So it gets kind of a single coil sound and kind of a humbucker, but never really gets quite to each one. So that's what the tap does. I'll put them both in, what the split does. See, even I did it. So they are both now split. It's going to be very thin. Okay, so you are almost Telecaster sounding. So you can take this to a country gig, you can take it to a rock gig, you can take it to a southern rock gig, you can take it to a metal gig and have all the sounds. Okay, so here you go with both of the humbuckers are split now. So they're both supposedly single coil. Okay, if you just push one down, get a little bit of extra thickness. I'll push the bridge pickup down, so it's supposed to be a humbucker now, but now the neck is still stuck in single coil. So you have one of each, a single coil and a humbucker in theory. So it has a little bit of quack, a little bit of spank, a little bit of twang, but some authority with the humbucker kicked in. Back to all humbucking. So it gets rid of all the prettiness. So humbuckers are generally jazz type sounding guitars or rock guitars. Okay, don't mean to pigeonhole everything, and single coils are generally country type of thing, southern rock styles. Your Clapton, your Mark Knopfler, and all them using your single coil sounds. Those are the best single coil things I can let you know, the Sweet Home Alabama sound. Humbuckers, you guys all know what those are. Those are just time to shred or time to play some cool jazz, put it on just the neck pickup, roll some tone off, and get... So you're into that stuff. Okay, so those are the differences in pickups. Okay, just a quick review of what they do and what a coil tap and a coil split is, what the differences are, just to end that once and for all. Okay, while we are right here, I'm going to basically show you what this puppy can do when you add in just a little bit of, well, actually a bunch of bit. I'm going to turn on my compressor. Most people don't know what a compressor is. It takes the highest hits that you can give a guitar dynamically and softens them, takes the ones that you accidentally hit soft, and it brings those levels up. So it squashes everything so it's all the same volume. I never turned mine off. I turned it off for that whole entire thing right there. But here is the same thing but with a compressor. I just don't want you guys to miss what a compressor is. Most of you will never know what one is unless I tell you and show you. Remember I told you at the beginning of this thing that I have the compressor sustainer, and my sustain wins over yours, even though I'm playing it on the least sustaining guitar I have. Until I decide to shut it off, it's not going to shut off. So I had to drive that point home. A compressor, again, squashes your loud notes and brings up your soft notes. Okay. So again, without it, I am going to floor this volume pedal. Okay, and now with it, okay, you'll hear the difference. Country players will recognize it because, check it out, here we're going to both single coils. You almost hear that percussive pop. So that is what I use all the time, since I'm primarily a country player, but I never shut it off. It stays on for everything. If you are to use the compressor, which is in my rack, not iRack, in my rack, it is, let's see, that little blue guy right there. I leave it on all the time and it stays on full blast all the time. Okay, so it's squishing as much as it can. If I actually go to my go-to sounds, which are like, say this. As it gets. These are my sounds that I programmed in here. My sounds kill everybody's sounds. But you get to, oh heck, let's go to something fun. Like a sound like this. This is just a distorted sound I made. So we'll go to some humbuckers and I'll go to the neck. But this is with the compressor on and the sounds I programmed into my wonderful Johnson amplifier. And just listen to what this thing can do. This is a humbucker with distortion, all my effects that I put in, but just great sounds. Cool stuff. Country sounds, distortion, or plain with some reverb. People who think you cannot play a Les Paul with country, there I just threw it into all single coil mode, and you've got one heck of a guitar with coil splitting, not tapping like it says. I said I wouldn't mention it again, but there you go. So there's pickups, various different kinds in a nutshell. So when you're out hunting for pickups for your guitar, or a guitar that has certain kinds of pickups, you'll know what the difference is in how they generally sound. Humbucker over a single coil versus a coil tap versus a coil split. Find out which they actually are if you want all of the variety. Who would not want variety? Why would you want a guitar like the Explorer unless you're playing just strictly rock all the time? And if that's your thing, then so be it. Get that. Get the right tool for the job. If you play in a band that plays country, if they play rock, if they play southern rock, if they play disco, if they play the Holiday Inn circuit basically, and you need tons of sounds, but you can only afford one guitar, get one good guitar and let it do all the sounds. So you need all the different coil splits and all that. So you need the humbucker sounds, you need the single coil sounds. This is a great type of guitar for that. Of course, there's always like a fat Strat. It has a humbucker here, then a single coil, then a single coil. Some of them will allow you to split that. If it don't have it, put it on. Drill a hole, put it in. Okay, so you can get both sounds. Most of them don't have it, so add it on. More variety is more variety. Why would you want less when you can have more for $2? Okay, so there you go. A long explanation of pickups, and on to some more fun stuff. Okay, now we're going to talk about basically really quick about what order your effects pedals should go in, should you be using any. Okay, that's if you want to. There's so many out there. There's so many that cost a gazillion dollars, and there's the all-in-one effects that do everything, which I'm all for. Everybody else, likes to go for the old, $5,000 Ibanez tube screamer, which doesn't sound any better than most things out there, but just so that they can impress people because they have the little green pedal on the floor. Okay, does it make any big difference? No. Okay. According to the latest polls, and I've got them right here, and I'll let you see them with me with my great writing, but when coming out of your guitar, number one, do you need a guitar cord? Does it make a difference between a guitar cord and a wireless? If you get a good wireless, like $150 to $200, which is good. You have $2,000 and $3,000 wirelesses. They don't make any difference. Okay, there's no degradation in quality, no matter what you may have heard. Okay, so one thing that will save your life is a wireless, literally. So many people have been killed or electrocuted and are vegetables now because of going up, grabbing their guitar, then they go grab a microphone or anybody else on stage or go up to sing, and they get electrocuted. That's because they're using a guitar cord. If you are wireless, you will never, ever get shocked again. Proven. That's fact. Okay? So there it be. Unless somebody else is not wireless and they're singing in the microphone and they're getting shocked over there and you're singing at the same time, it will send the same shock to you. But as long as you are wireless and you're the one singing and you're the one grabbing other people's knobs on the mixing board or what have you, you're not going to get shocked. Okay? So just know that, and know that even a cheap old Nady wireless like this one will not change how your guitar sounds. And if you are using a gold-tipped guitar cord, gold is not a good conductor of audio stuff, so it's actually the worst. But it looks pretty, and they charge more for it. So do not spend millions of dollars on all these stupid guitar cords. Okay. After that, the other thing, here is the suggested, straight off the web, and I don't agree with any of it, and I'll disprove some of it real quick. Right out of your guitar, if you're going into a wireless, go to a wireless. Okay, this is an output on your guitar. It is not an input. The sound comes out, the signal comes out of here. So that, my friends, if you didn't know it, that is your guitar's output, not an input jack. Okay, so it comes out of your guitar. If you have a compressor, like I was just showing you, it goes into your compressor, out of your compressor into any distortion you might have, unless you're using like a dual channel amp or 2 amps, however you get your distortion. Then you go into any EQs, okay, and then wah-wah pedals that you may have. Then, here's where I strongly, I can prove this one wrong. They suggest going to a delay pedal next. And then your modulation being your phase shifters, your choruses, your flangers, those kind of pedals. Then you go to your tremolo and your volume pedal. Okay, I use my volume pedal, of course. Is it the last thing in my whole rig? Almost. I put my delay after it, and I'll show you why. Reverb, if you use a reverb pedal, which is always going to be better than the one that's in your amp, because spring reverb just sounds horrible unless you are playing surf music, and nobody wants to buy that garbage. So get a digital reverb if you're going to use reverb at all. Okay? Sorry, Dick Dale, but that crap's over. You are a lounge lizard act now. It's a has-been thing. And then if you have any kind of a boost pedal, any kind for like solos and stuff, which again is what I use volume pedal for, just turn it up on the volume pedal, but not on the guitar, because you kill your tone. Okay, so that's what they suggest. Look at it. So it's distortion, or compressor, distortion, your EQ and your wah, your delay, your modulation, again being your chorus and your flangers, blah blah blah. If you're using like a tremolo and then like a volume pedal, after that you want your reverb and then like a boost pedal after. Okay, reasons I'm saying about the delay, if you actually put a delay after or before your volume pedal, here's what happens. If you were to be playing along and your delay was before your volume pedal, okay, I just now shut my volume pedal down. I'm going to show you down here what the hell is going on so you're not left out. Okay, so I'm playing on my volume pedal. Whenever I'm done, I shut it off and I walk away between songs, so nothing is coming out of my guitar. Okay, and I'm just using this controller. This is not a multi-effects thing. All of my effects are built into my amplifier. I programmed them all in. This is just a controller for everything that I programmed into the Johnson amplifier. Now, cool thing about that is I get to run my effects any way I want in any order via programming. But if you were to add a delay in, you would have to put it in after the volume pedal. Because otherwise, if you walked, I want this. If I'm playing with... And I've already shut off my volume pedal, but I want my delay to keep going like you would. Okay, if your delay was before your volume pedal, as soon as you shut your volume off, your delay would shut off also. That is not a good thing. Duh. Okay, so that one is proven wrong. Okay, so that's just what they suggest. Okay, so just to give you that, because you're at the end of a... Oh heck, let's just go to a regular distortion sound. I guess pick one first. Okay, you get to the end of a song like that, I've got my pedal off. So, I'm walking off stage. That thing's still going. If your delay was after that, or before your volume pedal, like that paper said, like everybody says to do, put your delay before your volume, that would not keep going. It would shut off as soon as you shut your volume pedal off. So that is wrong, and it has been proven. It is not, like I told you, it is not my personal thing. It is proof, and there I just proved it for you. Okay, so that is your chain of events, your effects, and so forth. I'm going to show you some other stuff that is going to be extremely valuable to you, and you're going to love this, and it's coming up in 2 seconds. Okay, right now we are going to talk about quickly, because there's no getting around much of this. All kinds of things. Tube amplifiers versus solid state amplifiers versus going straight into the PA system without any amplifier at all. Direct boxes and so forth, and how to mic your amp properly, and blah, 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 blah. So all this real world stuff that has to be taken care of. Okay, which is better? Tube amp or solid state? It's whichever you like, period. Tube amps are very, 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 did I say very? Noisy. That's just what they are. And if you plug that through a PA, you put a microphone in front of it, the horn, the PA, amplifies that. But people are using them all over the place because they like the sound. If you like the sound of a tube amp, get a tube amp. The tubes will burn at different temperatures as they are starting to burn out, and your tone will go away. Your volume will go away. You will have lots of problems with a tube amp. Okay, but that comes with the territory. Solid state amps are known to some people to be stale. It is in your playing more than anything. They have effects out now. You can plug through any solid state amplifier and make it sound as good as any tube amp out there. It didn't used to be that way. It is that way. We have achieved that. This one long did it, and they were the first to do it with this Johnson amp. Since then, Line 6 has tried to do it. They've never come close yet. Vox has some interesting things with it. Fender is long, not even close. But, with all this modeling thing. But Johnson is the one people who actually did it with this particular amp. The other amps they made didn't work. They were the first company out. Everybody shunned them, so they're a Digitech company made in Sandy, Utah. And people just didn't know what to think of them. It's just like, the Flying V's and the Explorers, when they first came out, nobody knew what the hell to think of them, so they went away until people were ready for them, 20 years later. Okay, so which is what happened here, and then Line 6 took over and making the majority of your modeling things, and they still haven't caught up to this. Okay, so if you're going to pick one or the other, pick whichever one you like. Go try them out. Some people like to turn a tube amp up to 10, a low watt tube amp, like like a 10 watt or a 5 watt, and then it just breaks up and has a certain sound. But you can, yes, get that exact same sound with a pedal. Okay, it can be done. And people will tell you that have the $5,000 little 5 watt amp that you can't get that sound, but yeah, you can get it with a $5 pedal off of eBay. That's a proven fact. But some people like to be organic and get it through a certain way. If I turn it down, my speakers do this, but if I turn it up here, my speakers are just on the edge of ripping their cone out, and that's the tone I need. But it's too loud to use in a club, so I have to put a blanket or a sleeping bag over it and then mic it so I can't actually really hear it, but it's under there doing its job. I don't see a whole lot of things about that. Okay, so it's a hard sell for anybody. Whatever you like is what it is. Get what sounds good to you. Again, everything is in the way you play. Okay? Good tone is in the way you play. If you play like crap, you're going to sound like crap. Do whatever. If you walk up to Eric Clapton and tap him on the shoulder, tap him out and go play on his rig, you are not going to sound like him. Your tone will not even be close. Even if you grab just what he's playing and just start playing, it will not even be in the ballpark. Just because that's how much difference there is in strictly technique. It will make or break you. Okay, here's another big thing. I'm going to take this guitar off. I'm going to show you a few things. So I'm going to come over here, pull the little camera off. I don't usually do this, but today I get to. Okay. Reason being is I have to show you, if you're going to go mic up your amplifier, you do not hang the microphone over top of your amp, because the front of the microphone is unidirectional. It's not omnidirectional. So you do not hang it over the front of your amp and let it try to pick up on the side. Okay, that's not what you do. That is a Shure SM57 microphone. That's the standard, what everybody uses. You put it right in front of your speaker, but you put it about 1.5 to 2 inches in from the edge of the speaker. The edge of the speaker is actually 1.5 to 2 inches over this way to where that speaker is. I've got a little mark on the front of the amp where it's been at for all these 10 years, 12 years, however long I've got like 4 of these amps, but they're all marked right where the sweet spot is. Your amp only has to sound good for those 2 inches. The rest of it, who cares? Just feed it back through the monitors, turn your amp down low enough so that you can get it through the PA and let the PA do the work. The best thing you could do in a real world situation is get your amplifier, if it's a small combo like this, get it off the floor, put it on a stand, point it at your ears, and put it to the side of you, facing in towards the stage. Okay? So you would actually be facing the audience if they were that way. Okay? So if it's behind you, you are defeating the purpose of the sound system. You're just blasting the room with your amplifier, which is not what you want. You want everything coming through the sound system. Okay? So you've got your PA set up over here, and you've got it mic'd, and it's supposed to come through the sound system, and everybody's supposed to be able to hear everything mixed well. If you're blasting it towards the front of the room, you are defeating the purpose. So turn your junk down. Last few gigs I didn't take an amplifier. I just went played straight through, and it sounded wonderful. And you can mix it perfectly if you run a main mix as your monitor mix, so you can tell exactly how loud everything is, and run your volume pedal, turn it up for the solos, and be your own sound man. Okay, the thing is about your amplifier, I'm talking about sound man. You can have, this amp was like $2,600, okay, and then it was like another $400, $500 for the J12 controller here to go with it back in its day. You can have this amp now on eBay, by God, if you can find one, for like $400 or $500, and they rock. But I'm buying them all up, so leave them alone. But a sound man will make or break you. Okay, you're like, hey, Clapton has a great sound. You have no idea because you've never been on stage with Clapton before. Okay, all you have heard is what you've heard on the record, and guess what? It was the guy in the control room, the sound engineer, that got his sound. Okay, of course he had to mic up an amp, but the guy behind the mixer, he can do anything he wants to achieve that sound. And same thing live. He can make you sound like crap, or he can make you sound like $1,000,000. But the only thing your amplifier is for in a live situation is for you to hear. Okay? And then it's being mic'd up, and then it goes out the front, and then he does whatever he wants to do. If he wants to make you sound like garbage, it's going to sound like garbage. Okay? So don't think just because you have a great amp and everything sounds great on stage that it's going to sound great out front, because 9 out of 10 sound people are very horrible at it. I'm sure you've been to concerts and everything sounds like crap. Okay, I've been there too as sound person and lighting people with big acts, and I do some good sound, let me tell you, but there are some horrible, horrible sound people. So don't trust your sound to anybody. Just know that this is your personal monitor. It is not for the house to hear. The house being everybody out there in the crowd. Okay? So put that at the side of you so it's not bleeding into the audience, and keep it low enough that it's not blasting everybody out to where everybody's fighting over it and trying to turn up and turn up and turn up, and, you know, to try to play over top of the drums. By the way, take a plexiglass drum shield, put it around your drummer if he's not playing electronic drums, shut him the hell up, and then mic him. Okay? That's what those pieces of gear are there for. Okay? So anyway, do not put your amps like this down on the floor and just have them just sitting there. Your ankles do not have ears on them, so you would be hearing nothing very well if your amp was down there. So you would be apt to crank up a bunch of high end in it to finally make it sound good by the time it gets up to your ears. But if it's sitting on the floor and bouncing out in the audience, it's just a big old, sounds like razor blades going through your ears because of all that high end that you're trying to get, 2 feet from it. You're standing next to it, but you can't hear the high end, so you keep cranking it up till you hear it. Then it's way too much by the time you throw it in that microphone and feed it to the front. Okay, so put it on a stand, put it on the side, point it straight at your flipping head. Okay, otherwise you're just asking for trouble. People with the big Marshall stacks, you have no problem. It's right there ready to roll. Okay, you've heard everything through there. I'm going to take this and pause it for 2 seconds, and I'm going to show you another route to go. Okay, be right back. Okay, what we have here is just a little tiny Fender Frontman 15G. They don't have no reverb, nothing, blah, blah, blah. Okay, what I'm doing right now is strictly, if I can, yeah, aren't I pretty? God, look at that. Okay, I am using a little, which one is it? I'm using this one. A little Digitech RP200. You can get those for like $50 or something on eBay. Okay, but you can take this to a gig. That little bitty amp, stick it right up in your head, and not have to take some big amp with you, and it will sound fine. Even better yet is the next one I'll show you. But this little amp does nothing hardly by itself. But it's just a matter of, like I said, who's playing it. Okay, here's this amp with just that thing doing all the processing for you. It's an all-in-one effects thing that I programmed. Okay, sounds as good as any Roland jazz chorus out there. And it honestly does. Hit my slap back thing. Okay, I'm just going with different sounds, my good old country sound. It has built-in compressor and everything. Hear the reverb? The amp does not have any. It's all in this one little cheap effect. You don't need $8,000 worth of little boutique, which means crazy priced, overpriced, vintage effects pedals, okay, to get good sounds. Here's some distortion. So what I'm using is this guitar. So all those sounds were just, you know, with the G and L deal. Okay, so let me back some. Oh! Yeah, get right in there. Okay, so a little amp like this can do great things with a little processor. So you can actually take this and bring it in and mic it and just have it right at, if you have it like this close to your head in a small situation, you go in there, you've got more than enough volume. Why bring the big stuff? Why hurt yourself? Okay, so God, you can walk in with a guitar in one hand, this little bitty thing inside of a duffel bag with your little processor, and you're good to go, dude. Okay, I'm going to show you another way. Okay, so I'm going to do a little flippy thing, you know, with this lovely Windows movie maker and make it think I'm a big Hollywood producer. So here it goes. Wow, wasn't that amazing? Okay, now what I have is no amplifier at all. I'm going directly from that effect from my guitar, you know, the wireless thing, into that little Digitech effects unit, and then I'm going into a direct box. I have a rack mount one down here. I'll show it to you. Here is a direct box. What you do is you just take your guitar, you plug it in to where it says in, so in or out, they're parallel, doesn't matter, plug it in, and the other side you just run a microphone cord to it, and you can just run a cable right out of there, right into the input of a PA system, and that's it. It's got a ground lift switch on it, which you will want. I'll show you why. Okay, so here you are, you go into a gig with no amplifier at all, and I just did this last week. Casino gig, a lot of, like I said, casino gigs, a lot of them do not allow you to have an amplifier, period. So if you are in the casino gigging market, I do all kinds of gigs, so you have to have all kinds of rigs. Okay, there's me licking my thing, so I lick my thingy so I can make my guitar go chingy chingy. Okay, so here's my guitar going directly into this cheap little Behringer PA head. Okay, see that thing? Dun, 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 dun. Okay, that's like a $300 brand new or whatever on eBay, and it'll blow your head off. And I'm going through this carving three-way cabinet up here. It's got a 15, an 8, and a horn in it. Okay, so here I am down here. I'm playing directly through the PA, so it's just going into what I told you I would show you. In my direct box, I can run a whole bunch of people into it. It is this blue unit here. Let me get this lights out of the way. Right here. So this blue unit is 5 direct boxes altogether. So my guitar is actually coming out right here. So if I was to turn up the PA, okay, if I did not have a ground lift switch, which is what I showed you right here, okay, everybody using one, you can get some major nasty noise. Okay, right now I have it lifted, or it is not lifted, it's normal. If I turn it back to a lift, or just the opposite way, it's just like taking a plug, you know, AC plug to plug it into the wall, and turning it upside down like you used to be able to do in the old days. If I switch it, it's going to sound like that all night long. So if you go to plug directly into a PA, and you do not have a direct box, expect to get that kind of noise. So you better have a direct box, you and everybody that plans to do that, acoustic guitar players and all. Okay, so down here I've, you know, got guitar tuners and all this stuff in line with it, but this is going directly into the PA with that little tiny Digitech pedal. So here it is, just straight to the PA. Okay, so the same sounds, you get the idea. It's just going, so you get all the same stuff. I'll change up the sound. Here's the slapback. Okay, again, so it's just all these same sounds I just played before in the little amp. We can go up to our distorted sounds. Okay, so I'm just changing. Okay, so there is that going option. You don't have to bring any amp. Just bring a direct box and a processor, and you're going to get as good a sound as anything. And it don't matter whether you're using tubes or what. Just get a good sound. You can get a good sound out of any rig if you yourself have good technique. The rest of it doesn't really matter. So whatever you want to use is fine. Just go try it out. And if you want your stuff to sound better, you have to practice and sound better yourself. Because if you suck, your sound is going to suck. Make sense? Makes sense. Good. I'm going to show you one more little thing on this whole deal. Here goes the little swoopy thing. Wow. Okay, wasn't that fun? The last thing I want to show you is now I'm back into the amplifier. Just a straight guitar sound. Okay, but I am using the microphone, and I'm going to mic it right here through the sound system. Okay, so I have it actually mic'd in. Dun, 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 dun. I love being my own camera guy. Okay, so we're plugged in to, where's my thing? Channel 1 over here. This one here was for my guitar when I was going direct. So now I am actually miking the amp. Okay, so I just want to prove to you what I said earlier about, okay, you've got this multi-$1,000 guitar amp back here and it sounds like this. Okay, you have a horrible, horrible sound man somewhere. Okay, he can turn you up through the PA. Okay, so now there it is through the PA. It's still coming through here, of course, but now all you can hear is the PA. Okay, he don't have it sounding too bad. But if your sound man sucks, what's he got you sounding like? He's got you sounding like this. So there's the PA sound. Here's what the amp sounds like. I'm shutting that off. Here comes the PA back up. Okay, so when you think somebody's amp sounds great, you're just hearing what the engineer does, okay? So you cannot tell if somebody sounds good without a good engineer, okay? I am a good engineer. Yeah, pat myself on the back. Why? I deserve it. I can dial in this. Now I have a good sound through the PA. Does it sound exactly the same as my amplifier? No, listen. Okay, now without the sound system. And why is that? Because guess what? Your amplifier, mine has two 12-inch Celestions in it. Okay? Two 12-inch Celestion 75s. Your sound system is not going to have that. I told you it has, that one has a 15, an 8, and a horn. You're not going to have a guitar rig that way. So unless your sound system is a big stack of Celestions, it's not going to sound anywhere near like what your amp does. It can get close if you have a good sound engineer. Okay, but it's always going to be his idea of what it sounds like, unless you are also the sound guy. Okay, so you're going to get as close as you can, but nobody is going to hear your amp, and nobody is supposed to. Okay, it is for you only, nobody else. Okay, so that's it on amplifiers. I'm not getting any more into it because that's all that needs to be said. You're going to pick what you like, but tube amps and solid state and digital can all make wonderful sounds if you know what the hell you're doing. And here's some cheap little ways to do it. Okay, so I just showed you I can make some amazing sounds out of this amp that freak all the vintage people out. And I'm not saying anything wrong with the vintage stuff. If it works for you, play the holy bejesus out of it and play it loud. Rattle my fillings out, please. I enjoy it loud. Crank that stuff up. Make it sound good. Whatever makes it sound good for you, use it. Is one better than the other? No. It's just a matter of how you use it. Okay, you've heard that before, haven't you guys? It's not what you have, it's how you use it. It's the same way with amplifiers, okay? One is not better than the other. It's just a matter of how you use it. It's as simple as that. It's as difficult as that. If you can't play, you're not going to sound good. If you don't have the brains to make all this equipment sound good, it's not going to. And if your sound man sucks, no matter how much gear you have, it's going to suck. Why have a $5,000 amplifier and a $500 PA system? Think about that. You might want to upgrade your sound system, boys. So that's what it is. So I can't get any deeper. I'm not getting any deeper because there's nothing else to get into. Okay? There's a few ways to do it, and all is equal on the amplifier home front, whether you believe it or not. It has been proven a million times. People that go directly in all the time get superior results. People that will take a Roland VG series with a little G, 2K pickup on their guitar and just stand in the control booth in the studio and play through a Roland VG, emulator, and stand right there and record the tracks that you think they were playing through big stacks on, but they were just standing right there and playing through a digital thing, but they're going to tell you something else just because it looks good on Guitar Player magazine. Okay, so anyway, that's the real scoop. So play what you will. Just play it well. Make it sound good. Okay, that's it. And on with the next stuff. Okay, what you're looking at now is on the front of my amplifier. It is set in a Fender twin reverb mode, so the amp will emulate exactly what a Fender twin reverb does. I will be using, as we saw earlier, this Sunburst G&L with the 3 single coil pickups for this particular demonstration, and just basic tone for those who need such a thing. I promised I would, so I will. So if you have like a Fender Twin, I'll do a couple quick things just to show you how to grab a good tone. These actually emulate them exactly. So the treble, the mid, and the bass are set inside of this particular amplifier to actually react on the same frequencies as a Fender Twin Reverb would. And with every different amp, whether it's a Vox AC130 or AC30, or a JCM 800 Marshall or a Mark II Boogie, they're all set to do those particular frequencies. Beautiful stuff. Okay, so anyway, so I'm using this 3 pickup Telecaster looking thing, but it's, sounds like a Strat. So I'm going to be using it in the 2 position, which is using the bridge and the middle pickup. Okay, there's our tone. You can see my bass is at 9.4, mids are at 8.2, treble is at 6.4. My gain is only up at 3.6. Now what gain is, for those of you who do not know, if you turn your gain up louder than your master volume, that is how you get distortion. So gain means distortion or drive. Okay, so if I was to actually take this level, which is at 9.8, okay, so the level or the volume, and just turn it down. I'm going to go down to about 4 and start turning this gain up. I'll just turn the gain up to 10 because this is on a clean sounding amp. Now I'll just turn this up to where it sounds louder. Okay, now I'm going to play it. So this is actually, a Fender Twin Reverb is basically a really clean amplifier. It's not known for its distortion. So, but I did add the gain to it. So if you want to get a little bit of edge out of an amp such as that, to sound like a tube amp that's just overdriving, you can get it right there. Which is the sound that most people are after when they're looking for a tube amp. But as I just proved, like I said, this is digital, it is solid state, and it is tube in the fact that it has 2 12AX7 preamp tubes in it. So it's all 3 put together. So Okay, so that's a cool sound. If you want to just as things look, treble, take it off. If I go all the way to 0, it sounds horrible. It sounds like you just turned the tone off on your guitar, which is never a good thing either, except for what is called woman tone, and I may be able to show you that in a second. But as we turn the treble up, there it is, wide open. That is what they call ice pick. Okay, that's an ice pick tone. It's just too much. It's horrible. But I told you at the beginning of this video, when I was asking you to buy it, that I would show you, some of you punk rockers, how to get that cool sound. Basically, this is it. Just a little bit of gain added to your guitar, and to use single coil pickups instead of humbuckers for that punk sound. Okay, this is also used in like a lot of the modern day country stuff. It sounds really good. I'm going to switch to the neck pickup or the rhythm pickup. Really cool for blues, which is this hint of the gain. Even though it's on 10, it's on a clean amplifier setting though. Okay, so I'm going back to the 2 position, which is my bridge and middle pickup. And I'm going to show you what the mid sounds like. You scoop your mids out. That is where the guitar's presence, P-R-E-S-E-N-C-E, not like the presents you get for Christmas is. So when you really want it in your face, that's where your mids are at. Crank those dudes up. So play it. I'll play a couple strings as I go by, as I'm changing it. It's really wimpy when you get rid of your mids. Too much of it, it's going to sound like honky, is what they call it, like a white person. So it's a little too much. Back it down to about there. It's got a neat sound to it. The typical sound of the humbuckers lacks low end, so you need to add a lot of bass to it. If you have an amplifier with an open back like this does, which means it's not closed, like like a Marshall 412 cabinet or something, that lets a lot of the bottom end out. If you want your amp to sound full, put a back on it. Screw a piece of plywood to the back of it, and your amp will all of a sudden have tons of extra bass that you never had before. True. Or put your amp up against a wall. That will give you more bass. When you take it away from it and you have an open back amp like this, you will lose all of your low end. So it's nice to make a thing that you can just screw in real quick with or put it on, better yet, with Velcro and snap it on the back, and you've got instant bass. But you're not going to get a bunch out of single coil pickups unless you do that. So you want to make your amp do the work. So by adding a back to your amplifier, best with Velcro, as I just figured out, cut out a piece of particle board or whatever, or any kind of wood, and just Velcro it to the back of your amp, and you've got tons of bass now. Okay, but you're not going to this way. Not with single coil pickups. You get rid of this bass, it goes all away. That's just horrible. It's like playing through a megaphone or an AM radio. But here it comes, we'll just slam as much as we can just to get something out of it. And of course, the more level you give it, more alive it's going to come. So with the louder your amp gets, of course, the tonal characteristics are going to change. So the more you turn it up, the tone will change. It's just the way things are. Okay, if you are into a distortion type of mode, let me go to, let's say something fun like dun, 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 dun. You can hear it already. Okay, you'll see I've got the gain on 10 on this particular amp. Okay, this is actually from a Marshall JCM 800 amplifier with master volume added in. They didn't originally have, with the preamp, they just originally just had a volume and that was it. But if you take that gain, start turning it down, it's going to get wimpy on you. Okay, let me grab a real guitar for this particular tone shaping. I'm going to grab my Gibson Explorer, which has the 2 humbuckers, just the stock Gibson humbuckers. But this will give you just an idea for those that are seeking this. This won't take long, and I won't take long doing it. But just to see what, for the beginners, what different sounds sound like on an amp such as this, or any amp. Okay, so I have the gain way down. Here's the gain on 0. So I've got the bass on 10, the mid-range on 10, the treble on 7. I'm using, let's just go with the neck. No, let's go with the bridge pickup. So I'm going all the way with the pickup way back here. Can we even get here? So, big guitar. The pickup right there next to the bridge. That's what I'm using on this big old Gibson Explorer guitar. Okay, so right back to where we were. Okay, so I have the gain off. It's a high gain amp anyway. We can turn the volume down. I can turn it up more over here on a master volume. Okay, so I can add more gain, which is more distortion, is what it is. Until it becomes a shred machine. Okay, so what we're going to change here, here's the treble going down to nothing. Sounds like somebody just put a sleeping bag over top of my speakers. Okay, so that's not good, so just brighten it up. Whatever sounds good to you. Here's mids. They're all the way gone. This is called scooped mid. People like to use this when they really crank up the amp some more and play chunky rhythms. They like to scoop out the mids. Okay, so that's louder than all get out. We'll add the mids back in. You can hear them coming in. Now you have some presence in there. So that actually gives you definition in your notes. You can tell one note from the other. And the lows, of course, the bass. Now we have nothing. Who wants to hear that? You know, again, with an open back amplifier like this, you need to really crank the bottom end up. And again, if you take the gain and take it away, it becomes quite a bit wimpier and cleaner. Okay, so that's kind of like if you were to take the guitar and say with that, it's the same thing. I'll turn the gain back up to 10, like we just had it, where it's all. If you you back the volume down on the guitar and barely turn it on, most of the distortion goes away, but your tone does too. Crank it up. Okay, that's how most people generally end up using their stuff, is doing that. Trying to get a clean sound by not switching channels, using an amp just overdriven, turning the volume down, and cranking it up when they want to go there. You get that, which is called a kill switch, if you shut off one of the volumes. So I'm shutting off the neck pickup, so if you put it in the middle or in the neck position, it'll be off. Kinda. That's Gibson not quite doing a true bypass here. But then you turn it on where the volume's wide open on that pickup, and it'll sound like it's doing that. Okay, so now I need to talk to you about something that is a total myth. People say that I'm crazy. That's a fact. Slide players, okay? While I'm just here, you do not need to raise your action on your guitar when it is time to play slide. That's a bunch of garbage, okay? So don't do it. You don't push down on your slide, okay? We are just laying the slide here. So for you guys that are, say I have to have a separate guitar for slide because I have to tune it different or whatever, no, don't tune it different. I have videos to show you how to play everything you could possibly play in an open tuning, and I can show you how to play it in regular tuning. Okay, don't believe me? Let me go back to this guy and turn the guitar up. I'm not changing my height. My guitar is going to play good all the time. You don't have to change it for slide guitar. I just wanted to bring that up as an extra little measure here for you. Okay, so that's what I just wanted to show you on the amp, just how basic tone things and gain structures work, and what happens when you actually roll it off on your guitar instead of on your amp or on a volume pedal or whatever. But if you roll it off if you're a rock player and you're going to be playing with high gain settings and you're going to crank it down to where you can barely get something out of it, then it's kind of clean. Figure out the chords about the third time around, and that's when I did it. So those are how you get those sounds. Okay, so just a quick introduction to what the highs, lows, and mids sound like on different settings. So that's all I wanted to get by on that. I have something else I need to show you. So so that is all part of that. You can just start cranking knobs until it sounds right. Experimentation is the best thing it can possibly do. Okay, so tone is something you get to find on your own, but there's kind of the quickest, stupidest little way to kind of show you what that does. I'm not getting real in-depth with that, as you can tell, because you're going to find your own tone and the way to make it suit you. Don't use my tones, okay? I've heard them. Okay, so that's it on the whole tone thing. Okay, folks, Scott Grove here, just saying bye after 4 hours of this mess. I really hope you enjoyed it. It's all about just trying to help, is all it is. You know, I know it sounds like I'm griping and complaining, which I do, because I'm passionate about what I do. Okay, things could be better, things could be worse for certain things, but if they're right for you, they're right for you. If they're right for me, they're right for me. I give you my opinions, and I give you facts. And the whole time I have told you which is which, okay? And I hope you learned something for your money. Heck, you might have got this for free. I don't know. People bootleg these things all the time. But there's my time and energy into this. Everybody has asked me to do this. I have not wanted to do this just because I know everybody's going to give me flack for a bunch of it. But, hey, who am I to run away from anything or anybody? I don't. My gun is way bigger than yours, so I don't run. Anyway, thanks for asking for this over and over and over again, so I had to do it. Appreciate that. Okay, so take what's there for what it's worth. Have fun. Laugh at it if you want to. Use it for a frisbee. I don't care if you have bought the CD version. Whatever. Just know that I know what I'm talking about. And if it's not for you, then it's not for you. What have you wasted? A couple bucks. Big whoop. Okay. So once again, Scott Grove. Thanks for asking for it. There it is. Have fun. Later.